Live, and we are now unmuted, so should be audible for everyone in the live chat here, waiting for another couple minutes technically for the show to start, but we're here ready early for everything, which is always good. It's better than being late.
Tad doesn't like being late.
No. We've had a couple where we had some snafus, technological snafus, and it made us late. Even within the last month, I feel like it's happened. So, yeah, I definitely don't like that.
Nor Central Positronics coming after us.
Yeah, pretty much.
Bastards.
All right, yeah. So, hello everyone that's in the live chat with us. We haven't started the show yet, but we are getting ready to. It's a couple minutes from the technical start, but yeah, we're going to be here for Roundtable 106. I feel like I keep looking at 105 for some reason, so that's stuck in my head. But no, we're at 106. All right. Looks like something may have happened because it just kind of refreshed a little bit. Hopefully everyone is ready to go. All right, let's go ahead and hit our intro real quick. And then we teased a surprise last episode if you've joined us on a book club. I know some people save the book clubs. But yeah, we will have that on the other side as part of the intro and stuff. So let's go ahead and hit Alan's amazing new opening for us that I still absolutely adore. I was telling Peter recently I find myself listening to it at random throughout the week. Sometimes I'll just be on my computer doing something and I'll be like, you know what, I'm going to listen to it.
Yeah, let's just give that a quick listen. There we go.
Yeah, so let's go ahead and take a listen to it and get started.
The Dark Tower by Stephen King. The man in black fled across the desert, and the gunslinger followed. Go then. There are other worlds than these. Death, but not for you, gunslinger. It's time we had our own Palaver, I think, and it's going to take a while.
And yet, dauntless, the slug horn to my lips I set, and blew. Child Roland, to the Dark Tower came.
We are content, one from many. Let the Palaver begin.
Hello and welcome to Dark Tower Palaver. This is our podcast covering Stephen King's magnum opus, the Dark Tower series. My name is Tad.
And I'm Peter.
And we're here for Roundtable 106. I just remembered as the intro was playing that I forgot to do a social media blast. So hopefully everyone that's here has the notifications set, because that's probably the best way to find out. Because sometimes Tad forgets.
Tad forgets things?
Yes,
No.
very often. So hopefully enough people found us here through the normal, either knowing the time and place or having the notification set on, because I forgot to do the social media stuff. But yeah, welcome everyone. And I won't go too far, but it looks like we had a number of people in the chat already. But we teased last time, or in our last episode, which is a book club. So I do know that some people don't necessarily listen to all the book clubs at once. Sometimes they save them or whatever. But yeah, we have a surprise, and I think we teased that last time for sure. And if you've been listening regularly, you may even know what it is, because we actually have talked about it. Mm-hmm. So let's go ahead and take a look at two faces here. As we should be coming on to the so we on our from the podcast side, I do apologize. I may have not been clear that the surprise is more for the YouTube side. So we added a visual element. We are now visual. If you want to see, as you call it, faces for radio. But yeah, so we wanted to do a kind of add the whole camera element, maybe make YouTube a little bit more I don't know,
Hashtag Tad-
dynamic.
Hashtag Tad terribly forgets. I like that, Travis. I like that.
Yeah, I'm not seeing that one. Oh yeah, there we go. Okay, yeah. So that's the surprise. We're gonna have this, as well as I wanted to mention as part of the YouTube thing. We were gonna do it this time, but there's a little bit more I have to do in terms of prep work. As we want to start doing reaction videos.
Yeah.
For things like trailers that come out and stuff. So yeah, we're going to be doing that hopefully soon. I just need to look into some of the stuff with like video editing and stuff in terms of how to get all that executed. But like, for instance, like now, since the last time we did a roundtable, which has been a minute, we've had like the Leezy story trailer we haven't really talked about yet, as well as Chapelwaite put out a small little 30-second teaser.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, that was kind of what we were going to maybe try to do this episode, like do right before this episode, then post around the same time. But yeah, I just need to do more prep work on that. So, yeah, that'll be coming though. So keep an eye on our YouTube channel. It'll have not only our normal podcast stuff, but we'll be adding some more content, of course, Stephen King related and whatnot, on there. So, but yeah, if you're on the podcast side, everything's still normal. We're still a podcast. We're still doing the normal stuff. But we just wanted to add a little bit more to the YouTube side. So, so what's the reactions here?
So far we got, whoa, this is awesome. Awesome. Looking good, guys. Nice. A couple people said they had no idea that this was happening. Mark and Jack. No, that was the point. It was a surprise. Yeah. Like we talked about this literally like a month or so ago, and we're just like,
it kind of
we should do this.
It got brought up on an episode. I feel like where somebody said something about whatever.
I think it was Mark was like, hey, have you guys ever thought about like posting a pictures? Because then he said he pictured you looking like Kevin Smith. I think is
you.
Oh, me.
And I was comic book guy.
Yeah, you were comic book guy. So that was
which I do appreciate as a longtime Simpsons fan.
That really actually did light the fire under us. So we're like, probably wouldn't be that hard to do. So here we are just a couple episodes later. Yeah,
and I had been looking into it actually kind of in parallel to that. That was definitely something that sparked me to acting quicker on it. So that's looking forward to doing this with more of a visual element. I remember even when we started on YouTube, people were mentioned in the live chat like, oh man, I thought maybe there'd be cameras in you guys too. So that's something that was even anticipated. I don't even know how long ago that was now. 3 years now that we've been on YouTube. So it's been a while.
But real fast, before we get too far into this, I'm gonna give everyone just kind of like a virtual tour. So this is where I sit when we record in Tad's office. Tad is off camera that way from me. So if you see me looking like this right now, I'm looking at Tad.
And then Peter's
and
that
then
way.
there's Tad looking at me. And then if Tad's looking at his computer, you're gonna see this.
Yeah.
And then me looking down is me looking at my laptop. So don't think that I'm like ignoring you or anything like that. We're not going to be looking at the camera a ton of the time. Yeah. Because it is going to be still the podcast where we're reading notes and everything like that. I'm going to be reacting to what's on my screen because that's the one of the big things that we're so excited about this is that not only do you guys get to hear my reactions now, you get to see it. There's been so many times that Tad snuck that dagger in under my ribs without me realizing it, and I just sit here and I just do something like this when I
or when you recoil in pain.
Or where I'm like, no, like that. You guys haven't seen that before, and so this was one of the things that when Tad brought it up, and he's like, yeah, I'm all for this. I'm like, oh yeah, absolutely, I am too.
I'm noticing on the screen though when I look at you, it's actually backwards on the screen.
Yeah,
like
I'm looking mirrored.
Away. Yeah, so that's fun. I watch some reaction videos at times, and people do that where they're like on a couch watching a movie, but the way the cameras are set up, like they're not like the two on the screen don't look at each other; they look away from each other, and it's like weird.
Oh yeah, I see what you mean. I should be on the left side, you should be on the right side because I'm looking to my left to look at you, you're looking to your right.
Yeah.
But it looks like we're looking at opposite I see what you mean.
Yeah, indeed. So yeah, hopefully this will make the YouTube side a little bit more dynamic. We'll kind of, this is the first go of it, so we'll see how it works. But I think it works out well with keeping the visuals and stuff. I kind of built the slideshow this time to kind of keep this in mind with our being on screen. So let's go ahead and jump into the introductions. First of all, we want to warn you guys about spoilers. If you are new to the show, especially if you haven't finished all the way to the end of the 7th book, The Dark Tower, you may want to cry off this episode because while we may be talking about things all over the King verse, it seems that Dark Tower the ending of Dark Tower, as well as ending of characters or end of story plot lines, tend to get spoiled fairly regularly on roundtable episodes. So if you haven't finished to that final word of the 7th book, you may want to cry off this podcast and stick to our book club episodes.
And that includes the epilogue.
Yes, as Peter, if you're like Peter and you somehow didn't do the epilogue, yes, you have to go through that too, because we will definitely spoil that. But yes, if you want to stick to our book club episodes, though, on those we stay where we're at or before. We never jump ahead. So we're right now with Jake in New York City as he's losing his mind slowly, as he's survived his death as it should have been, and now he's kind of splitting his mind.
He just found the rose. That's exactly where we ended, is at the rose.
That's true. So he just found the rose in the vacant lot. That is where we're at. So if you're anywhere ahead of us there, but you're not to the end of the show, stick to our book club episodes. Those are definitely safer ground for you to be. As well as we're going to cover a number of other topics, including one where there's a thing about King ending. So there's a number of King spoilers as well, but I don't feel as bad about those because King himself has said it's not about the journey, or it's not about the ending itself. It's about the journey. So he kind of has the whole premise of it shouldn't really ruin one of his stories that you know the ending before you get there. Mm-hmm. So I'm not super worried, but there will be some, especially in one article that we're covering. And then if you want to find us, you can find us on Apple Podcasting. You could Apple Podcasts, which apparently is not doing so hot. I'm seeing a lot of bad reviews on them. They did some kind of update, and apparently it's pissing everyone off. As well as we're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher. You can find us on any of the normal podcasting services that you might have out there as well. If you could subscribe, rate, and review us, we'd appreciate that. And then you can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. I actually just recently went and refreshed the Dark Tower Palaver. There isn't heavy changes, but one of the main things is the links section. I did update that. So now there's a link there that we haven't had before for Spotify. There's a link for our merchandise, which I wanted to point out to everyone. It's like an open box. I couldn't find like a cart that worked with like whatever. I had to kind of like adjust the coloring of things. I couldn't find a cart that worked really well or a basket. So I had to do a box for our merchandise, as well as I'm trying to think of all. It's been a while. So I don't think even the Instagram was on our thing. So there's little new icons there on the side for all of our links. You can find that at darktowerpalaver.com, as well as the new questions. If you're a new listener, we consider you part of our extended quartet, and we want to hear from you. We basically have come up with a number of questions over the years that is the best way for us to kind of get to know you as a Dark Tower fan. You can find that at darktowerpalaver.com, as well as the show notes. Everything we cover in this episode will be linked there. I do take excerpts and stuff, sometimes heavy, sometimes light. If you want to read the full articles, you can find the links to that at darktowerpalaver.com. And then if you want to support the show, there's a number of ways to do that. But the newest way is Patreon. We have a Patreon set up. There's any number of options there. But at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver, we actually just not too long ago did a Carrie commentary for our patrons. That was voted by them. As well as you have the Discord, as Peter mentioned. Daggering Peter in the heart is a fun thing, and should not only be enjoyed every fortnight. If you want to get in between there and stab Peter in the heart, you can do that at on the Patreon by being part of that, and then you'll get on our Discord server and you could stab Peter repeatedly throughout many weeks. And then if you want, and then of course, like I said, I mentioned the merchandise. We have that. You can find the link there at darktowerpalaver.com. And we have a store set up on TeePublic. And some people are already starting to get their shirts in the mail. And they're not just shirts, but everything. We have some people got some stickers and stuff. So there's a lot of cool stuff that you guys can find over there. It's TeePublic, I think, /user/darktowerpalaver. I don't have it on the notes here, but I believe that's what it is. As well as, like I said, just go to darktowerpalaver.com and click that link that looks like a little box that's being opened, and it'll link you over there. Then if you want to contact us, Peter can let you know the ways to do that. The best way to reach us is email. It's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. And then we stream our shows live now with cameras on youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Make sure to like the videos, subscribe, ring the bell to get notifications so you can see when we're going live. And then our social media is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. Our Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's POD. And then, like Tad said, we have an Instagram. It's darktowerpalaver, all one word, no spaces in it. I was just getting a message of Travis here in the chat because he mentions, he says, while the show works as an audio only, it's a plus to see the faces of the people you're hearing. I've wanted you guys to do this for many years now and happy with this bonus. Thanks. I'm definitely our pleasure. And I was just going to type out there. I think Travis may have actually been the one that mentioned not having visuals when we first launched on YouTube.
Yeah.
A number of years ago. So
shows how long Travis has been with us.
Yeah, I keep thinking like, oh, YouTube, we've been doing that for a year or so, and then like I think when I looked back and it was like, I can't remember, it was like Roundtable, like I don't even think we were at 60 yet.
Oh, really?
So it's been a long time. Yeah, we've been on doing YouTube for a while now. I lose track of time, but yeah, let's go ahead and jump right into it. There's a lot of stuff to cover this episode, and there's going to be some pain for Peter.
Oh no!
Right away, as a matter of fact. So let's go ahead and I'm going to change the slide a little bit so that our pictures get smaller, so that it fits into the thing here. So let's go ahead and let's see. Yep, there we go. Make sure it's transitioning right.
Mm-hmm.
So this is called Scaling the Tower, and we got a wonderful picture there of.
Okay.
Of someone you may recognize.
Yeah.
So this is from Another Film Nerd is the name that's listed on the website, from Graffiti with Punctuation on April 1st, 2021. This has been a while now, but I've kind of haven't had a chance to get it into the show, but I wanted to definitely wanted to hit it. So here we're finally circling back to get to it. So you will recognize Sam Strike here as the gunslinger, Roland, from the abandoned Amazon series
pilot. Yeah.
So this is he kind of mentions in this that it's kind of like parallel with the King Cast episode where they interviewed Glenn Mazzara and talked through a bunch of stuff. But there is some stuff here that is a little bit new, maybe, but some of it may be a little bit rehashed from that. But it's still pretty cool, and there's a lot of visuals to look at that we haven't seen before, such as this picture. I don't think we've seen this before. So, yeah. This is going to be a little bit painful because this is what could have been and maybe what should have been. So let's go ahead. I'll go ahead and change the slide because there's a bunch of pictures, so we're going to change as we go here. This one is labeled The Hillside Town of Hambry.
Damn.
So I got a little picture there, but then it goes on and says the iconic sentence opens both The Gunslinger, the first Stephen King's Dark Tower novels, and Glenn Mazzara's scripted pilot episode of the series for Amazon Prime Video, which, if seen through to fruition, would have tackled the entire saga over the course of 7 years. Again, that's that's
we would have got 7 years of Dark Tower TV show from Prime.
Yeah. As I said, much pain for Peter, which is some joy for the rest of us. But
gosh, really? Right off the bat, hashtag that is terrible. Just enjoying, like, I swear you live off of my tears.
that would fit me right into the King universe, wouldn't it?
Yeah, right.
So then it says, quote, we were always interested in being respectful to the source material. I created a rule that if something happens in the novel, it's canon, and we do our best to honor that canon, Mazzara said. So I don't remember exactly what we got from the King cast. It's been a minute now since I had that pain of listening to that interview. So I don't remember how much of this is actually new or how much of it is familiar. But that definitely is a pretty interesting edict that, you know, they were going to be very, very true to the books. Robert saying I deserved the hashtag. I still don't know. I think it was. I still think the hashtag slander. But
no.
But yes,
it's on the board. Therefore, it cannot be slander.
So let's go ahead and change to the next slide here. And the next one is it says The Feast of the Kissing Moon in Greenheart Square, featuring a stuffy guy on the right.
Oh.
So yeah, it gets better, man. As we see some of these images.
None of this is going to be better. It gets better when they say, "Okay, so it got picked up by Netflix or something."
Oh, I guess I should say it gets worse in terms of as we see some of these images and stuff. Then most of this is quotes I'm pulling from Glenn Mazzara. Then so the next one here says, "So if Roland, the titular gunslinger," in parentheses says, who was played by Sam Strike, shoots Gabrielle, Roland's mother, played by Elaine Cassidy, and kills her in the book, then it is what we are going to do. My hope was the fan base would have appreciated our level of care. They may have balked at the casting. They may have balked at some of our choices. But anything I was going to change, I had a reason why. I felt the audience would appreciate that level of thoughtfulness.
Oh, my God.
Oh, yeah. There's plenty of good stuff here. Then it goes on and says that movie, and then it moves on talking about the movie. It says that movie is dead on arrival. And we were like, okay, well, what do we do now? The movie is a Portal movie. It's a comic book Portal movie, and that wasn't how I saw the novels. I saw the novels as a character study. In the pilot, we don't even mention the Dark Tower. Roland's motivated by the Gunslinger Code, not the Dark Tower. He would only see the Dark Tower in the Grapefruit, one of 13 mystical orbs that form the integral part of King's novels. In episode 7, Amazon liked the script, and I had a history with some of the executives there. They bought it, and they said, we don't want an origin story. We want something where people have to lean in and ask questions. We don't want to spoon feed the audience. The show is weird, and it's okay that it's going with that approach. Peter getting a little agitated, maybe.
They gave them what they wanted, and they still didn't make it.
Yeah. And they do get into it. So we'll go to the next slide here as well to get another visual. And this is back to the original one that was kind of the header of the article, and it is this one was had the little subtitle, and the gunslinger Sam Strike followed. So good little reference there. Then it goes on here, another quote. A lot, like I said, most of this is quotes from Glenn Mazzara. He says, "I didn't feel like the gunslinger would work as the first season. It would be great on film, but I worried that the audience would be too lost and unable to invest in Roland. He slaughters a town, lets a kid fall to his death, and performs an abortion with a gun. The ending is a bit confusing. I was worried that we would not get picked up for a second season," he said, which is what I've been saying for a long time. Yeah. I don't even think for a movie, I don't think Gunslinger would work right off the bat. You need something else to attach people.
That's where we talked about you start with the gunslinger. That's the first half of the film, and the second half of the film is the drawing of the three, because then you introduce the idea of the tower and the idea of Katet and the idea of, hey, we need to go.
Yeah.
And then possibly even Roland's madness, because then it's like a cliffhanger, kind of thing. That's where we've had that discussion for years.
Yeah.
That it could be Gunslinger and Drawing of the Three together.
Yeah, and I think that would have been the best way to go about it. Not that I think Drawing of the Three would be a wonderful movie on its own. But yeah, that's kind of what he was. It's just interesting to see him say that too, because I've been thinking that is like, I love the first book, but I don't know if it's as cinematic or as easy to, especially because, like he mentions, the character of Roland isn't necessarily, when we end book 1, you're not really sitting there going, God, I love this guy.
He's such an upstanding fella.
You're sitting there going, God, is this really the main character of this story?
Piece of shit.
Then it goes on here and says, I felt that the story of the Grapefruit and Roland learning about the Dark Tower would give us a lot to go forward with and for the audience to invest in, because I think that was that would have been close to the end of the first season. So that would be what carries you into the second season is the Grapefruit stuff. So we put together a writer's room, and I hired 2 writers. We came up with the idea of picking up our story a couple days after Roland goes or got his guns and begins to go after Martin. And so that had already occurred. So we would take in that part of the story and connect it to Hambry story, location where the bulk of Wizard and Glass takes place, it says in parentheses, and make Roland go to Hambry to find Martin. Roland seeking his revenge as a powerful engine for the show, and we're going to use Hambry as our stage. I still feel it was important to start with Roland and explain the world of Gilead and the world of gunslingers and Roland's first quartet. So definitely not a bad thought there. And then the next slide.
Carol says in the chat, I'm following a podcast that actually got a screening of the Dark Tower Amazon pilot. They say it was it was awesome as we wildly ever hoped it would be. So
yeah, I definitely got to start poking around and see how people are getting their hands on this pilot, because I would definitely love to see it myself. But yes. So the next slide here had the little subtitle, "In Pursuit: Roland, Sam Strike on the road to Hambry." So
Travis says, Carol, who is this pod and where do they live?
Like I said, man, it's like what was that movie? Fanboys.
Yeah.
Where they go to break into Skywalker Ranch.
Ranch, because one of them's dying, so they wanted to see episode 1 before he went.
Yeah, we need to have the Dark Tower version where we go break into Glenn Mazzara's house to get the.
You're not telling people that I'm dying.
I mean, if we have to. It's
See, the problem is that in Fanboys, it was because the guy was sick. For us, it would be, you'd kill me just to be able to watch it.
I mean, what came to my mind when I thought about it was Mr. Burns. There's an episode where they're playing baseball, and he's like, "Team, there's a boy in a hospital that wants you to win this game. How do I know? I put him there." Yes, that's about the long and short of it there. So then it goes on, says, as we were budgeting them out, they turned out to be cost prohibitive, he said. So kind of getting into the reason why it was probably passed on. He says it would have cost tens of millions of dollars. It's a period piece, and you have to create all the costumes, you have to create all the weapons. Every piece of equipment has to be personally designed for the show. So yeah, I mean, it definitely would have been expensive. I mean, you hear about what they're spending on like the Lord of the Rings and stuff, and like, you know, I'm guessing Amazon's way more willing to buy into Lord of the Rings because it's a billion-dollar film franchise at this point, and the original 3 movies are beloved by an entire generation now. Second trilogy, I don't know. But so that's ultimately probably where they're getting into the realm of like the bean counters deciding one way or the other. So the next slide here, this one is titled Eldred Jonas, Michael Roker, and Martin Broadcloak, Jasper Pakonen, and the Traveler's Rest in Hambry.
Damn.
Oh yeah, then Jack says it was Millhouse, yes, that Burns put into the hospital.
Yeah,
because he goes to the hospital room and he's like, "I'm afraid Mr. Burns is going to come back." Oh, it's glorious. Millhouse. All right, so yeah, this is I can't remember what we've seen of Eldred Jonas as well as Flag, Martin Broadcloak, as they're calling him here. But yeah, this is definitely an interesting look for both of them, and definitely creepy for Flag.
Yeah,
definitely. I think we had some explanations early on that he was very creepy and very whatever, and I could definitely see it now. He's something else.
He's not fun to look at.
And then in the next quote here, it says there's a lot of holes in there and a lot of things that are open to interpretation, he said. One of those things that I was excited about writing was the scene for the Council of the Eld, because I don't really get a sense of who the other gunslingers are. Martin dropped out of the story for a long time, so one of the things that we were going to do in the show is show how Martin became the Man in Black, Rudin Falario. I was going to show that transformation at the end of season 1. The character of Gabrielle also had a lot of holes, and I wanted her to be a real character so that when she dies at the end of season 2, it breaks the audience's heart. Other times you have to change the story because you're telling it in a different medium. The serialized TV format is different, and you've got to feed that beast. Yeah. So, it's got a little bit more there. Then the next slide here is a fun one. And this one is titled Susan, which is Joanne Ribeiro, enters Ria's cottage.
I don't want to see her. I don't want to see Rhea. I don't. I mean, I do, but I don't.
Yeah. And then it says, putting it in chronological order is grounding because it's such a weird story. It has such a weird tone, he said. It can be confusing, you know. You're wondering, what in the world is this? Is it the future? Is it the past? You can't just make it a show that people who have already read the novels want to see. You have to make a show that everyone understands. You're going to have to move pieces around to make that work. The easiest way to do that would be to start at the beginning with Roland, with Roland, show that he's raised with this code and these ideals, because Gilead is like Camelot. So we want to show his relationship with his father, with his mother, with his young quartet. Those are all important relationships. Another thing we did when we added 2 female quartet members, Jamie, Joanne McGibbon, and Eileen Daisy Fairclough. The best actresses for the part were black. I thought we could do something interesting there. If we differentiated their personalities moving forward, they could be the split personalities in Susanna, a future quartet member. So one of them would have been Detta, one of them would have been Odetta in terms of like overall style.
That's so fucking brilliant.
Yes, it is.
Oh, you're enjoying this way too much. See, now you guys can see how much enjoyment he actually gets out of this.
Oh yeah, it's. I mean, we have to cover it. It's Dark Tower related, and there's some really cool images here. But certainly, we easily could have just grabbed the images and not taken the text as well. But no, I absolutely had to let you suffer through it, since I had to suffer through it.
Oh. Robert points out there's a pink glow coming from the bedroom in this picture.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
see it.
It says that the idea was that everybody in his childhood quartet would be represented later. Cuthbert, which is Khalil Madova, could end up saying stuff that is reminiscent of Eddie, another member. And then I'm going to skip the parentheses. We all know who these people are. And then Alan, not because it's like explaining who the characters are. Alan, Frankie Fox, is going to be reminiscent of Jake. So basically, yeah, it would have just been a 1-for-1 translation of the new quartet to the old quartet. And then the next slide here. The Witch's Paper, Susan gives Mayor Thorin, which was played by Ivan Kay. And yeah, you got the Coos Hill there, and it says honest, but spelled in a very witchy type way.
They got the symbol, right?
Yeah, and then you got the symbol too. So
that's exactly like almost identical to how it looks in the book.
Yeah. Let's see. I'm kind of missing out on the chat here. So is there anything else I missed?
Travis says Tad is suffering, but his suffering is lessened by Peter's suffering.
Oh, absolutely. And I also suffer off camera when I'm prepping the show a little bit more, And then it turns to joy when I'm like, okay, now Peter gets to suffer.
Robert says, I agree with Tad. Peter in 3D paint is hilarious. I'm glad that I can be there for all of you to enjoy my suffering.
Then the next quote says, I became a student of the mythology and I read the entire saga multiple times, he said. We also hired a consultant, Robin Firth. Robin was Stephen King's assistant for a long time and had become the keeper of the lore. She wrote the Marvel graphic novels. She wrote the Concordance. She knows the world. She knows the mythology. She was actively involved throughout the process. I met her in London, where she was living, and she came to the set in Croatia. We wanted to do it right, so when I had questions, I'd call her and ask her. We didn't make any decisions on the mythology or lore without consulting her first.
So they even had a Kevin Feige.
Yeah, I mean...
Like, oh...
So then the next slide here. This is Roland and Susan dancing. Yeah, this one hurt me to see. This one did, because like the rest of it feels a little bit more static, where it's like, okay, Roland on the road, or like, Martin and Eldred Jonas.
But this is the story of season 1.
This is like,
and possibly season 2,
and so much of the book that it's like, to see this. It's such a big and iconic scene, like of book 1, book 4. Like, what are the most iconic things? Like, I feel like the whole dance stuff, like that's up there. Not top. I mean, Char Yu Tree certainly is is probably number 1. But in terms of like that, the dance is like, that's huge.
It's a huge moment, because it's like the reveal of her situation that she didn't bother to tell Roland.
Yeah.
And the heartbreak that he has for that, and then like the anger that goes with it that splits them.
Yeah.
And causes her to be just as upset as him.
Yeah. Travis says, I hope HBO gets their hands on the franchise. And that's my hope too. And I think, like, honestly, I have a lot of hope for things, because, like, honestly, like, we're in an age now where all these streaming services are out and stuff. Like, it's an unlimited time for content right now. Like, it's almost easier to get something made now than it ever has been. So I just have to imagine there's some streaming service that's eventually going to see this as like an anchor that they can grab, and someone that's not like Amazon, that's already spending $1 billion on Lord of the Rings. They've got Wheel of Time coming. They're pretty heavily invested in some stuff. The Boys is one of their big hits. So I can't imagine that there's not someone out there that might eventually circle on this. I mean, I don't think it'll be Glenn Mazzara's version. I think somebody else will probably be involved. I know there's a lot of hope that this can be revived in some way, but I just don't see it happening. Like, like even if it's like, I'm trying to think of who we've had a couple different people over the years have said they want to do it. Like I think Frank Darabont's recently pretty much said he's retired, so wouldn't be him. But I don't know.
JJ was involved at one point.
Yeah.
What was the other one? Was it Woody Harrelson or
no? There's been a number of people though, and I just imagine at some point if it gets done, I'm just hoping the person has the same authenticity to it that Glenn Mazzara had here, because
or at least some of it. Like, that's the problem that a lot of people have with the movie, myself included. After a couple rewatches, is that they strayed from the beam a bit, quite a bit. So
so then it goes on and says, I'd started to conceive the entire series in my mind, and when Roland eventually enters the Dark Tower, he goes past everyone he's encountered in his life. When we enter the last room, he loops back to the desert, he said. Then he said, so in that first shot in the pilot, Sam Strike is looking around. In my mind, he's just entering from the loop. I was just going to go back to that shot for the last shot of the series. Not the season, the series. At one point in the series, around episode 304, I was going to, which would be season 3, episode 4, I was going to have a big battle of Jericho Hill. I already had notes on where the people were and how that played out. I had all the content scripted in my head. I also worked with a unique contract with SAG-AFTRA, which is the Screen Actors Guild. where I was going to film footage for anyone who had ever worked on the show and bank that footage so that when Roland goes through the tower and sees everybody, it's not flashback. It's not repurposed footage. So I was really thinking of the totality of the story. So he would have filmed like Cuthbert scenes that were new. So it wouldn't have just been like, oh, look, they're just rolling back footage from season 1. Like
where Cuthbert looks up from his card game with the lad.
Yeah, exactly. No. So that's pretty brilliant because I hate that sometimes when you get to something it's just like, oh, cool, they're just showing me like literal shots from from earlier in the show.
From what I watched in the episode.
Yeah, I always just find that feels cheap and it pulls me out of it a little bit because I'm always just like, oh yeah, I've seen that episode, and it's just like, I don't know. Yeah, so I appreciate that he wouldn't have done that. Then the next slide here is also Roland and Susanna dancing, but a little bit more of a mid shot versus a tight shot on their heads there. Mm-hmm. So get a little bit more of it. See her dress. See him in his gunslinger gear as well. Let's see. And then it goes on and says, he goes on and says, one of the things I'm really proud of is the gun box, Mazzara said. He says that was inspired by an actual box that we found in a museum in Dubrovnik. While we were scouting. It was an intrinsic device, and I thought it would be a fascinating addition. In my mind, what happens was Roland is raised by the code. The code is the established order in this world. When Arthur Eld established the gunslingers, his code of ethics established that world. Because at one point there were monsters, and they ended up leaving the world, and an order was established, and that order has held up. But Roland violates that code because when he goes to get his guns, he goes too early, and he's also going for vengeance. He's not going to get his guns because he earned them. He's going to use them to kill Martin. When he opens that gun box, we're going to see gears shift, and that's when the world moves on. So in the pilot, there is constantly shots of wheels, gears, and a lot of spinning. We're never going to explain it, but it was kind of, we were never going to explain it. But I called Robin Firth, and she said it made sense. So we were thinking about it on a very metaphysical level because there's this intrinsic mythology tied to our lead. Roland is the most important character in the saga. He is the one who reaches the top of the Dark Tower. He is the one who enters the top room. And when he gets to the top room, it rolls on. So. Oh, man. Yeah.
God damn, that sounds so good.
Next slide here, Roland's quartet, Eileen Ritter, which is Daisy Fairclough, Jamie DeCurry, Joanne McGibbons, Cuthbert Allgood, Khalil Madovi, and Alan Johns, Frankie Fox. So kind of get the original quartet. I always get it like confused in my mind. 'Cause, like I want to say the old quartet, but then in my mind I think of age, and I'm like, no, they're the young quartet.
Yeah.
It's like, but then really, no, they're not. They're actually the older quartet because they existed before. So it gets confusing.
I wonder if they, since they upped Roland's quartet to 5, I wonder if they upped the big coffin hunters to that.
Possibly. Then it says, so the shoot was from April into May, and then June to December we were cutting the pilot, doing visual effects, and Bear McCreary was composing the music, he said. Then I started rewriting the rest of the scripts, re-breaking and rewriting, because the original scripts were written before we had a cast of the show. I now had actors I could write to, and I had a better understanding of the show. The intent was to do 8 episodes in the season, and I was in the middle of episode 7 when I was told the show was not going ahead. So there is potentially at least rough drafts of at least 6 episodes out there. I don't know if it's out there necessarily, but they exist somewhere on some hard drive. So then the next slide here.
Can I just become uber rich so I can fund this? Like legit, like if someone's like, hey, you have unlimited money for a day, what are you going to do? The first thing I would do is probably this.
Yeah. So this slide is Eldred Jonas and the Big Coffin Hunters. So, again, seeing Yondu there.
He looks good.
I
like the hat.
Yeah. And then some others there that I don't know that we've really seen before. Then it goes on and says, quote, Amazon's also doing Wheel of Time. They're doing Lord of the Rings. These are big, expensive shows, he said. Ours was probably just not as accessible. It was a strange it was a strange world, so it came with a greater risk, which, yeah, that kind of makes sense. I mean, I think Wheel of Time is probably kind of weird and out there as well, but that one has never been touched before, really.
Right,
so,
it's fresh.
Yeah, it's a lot more fresh, so that may be the difference there. And maybe it's less weird. I don't know. I've never read that series, but I have to imagine it's probably not as weird as The Dark Tower, just because
it's The Dark Tower.
It's The Dark Tower. At some point, Harry Potter things show up and lightsabers and Doctor Doom robots, and yeah, it's pretty fucking batshit. And Stephen King, for Christ's sake. I mean, let's not.
Yeah, the author shows up in his own book.
Yeah, let's not get ahead of ourselves. Then the next slide here, the big coffin hunters trip up Shimi, played by Daniel Lowry, at the Traveler's Rest. So there you see Shimi down there on the ground.
Oh, okay.
So again, okay, I take it back. This is the most iconic scene of this book. Like, absolutely.
The Traveler's Rest
the showdown at the Traveler's Rest, that is absolutely tip top. And not only for this book, but in this series, it's probably like top 5, if not top 3. Yeah. I think Blaine's number 1 in terms of all-time iconic scenes. But I think that the showdown at the Traveler's Rest has got to be up there as well.
Oh, yeah, it's so good.
So yeah, we got that, and then it goes on and says, I can't say that I have any regrets. I'm happy with what we did, he said. I had a great creative experience as a writer, as a producer. You want to work with good material and you want to work with good people, and I got that. What happens later, what the studio and streamers do with it, how the audience reacts, I can't control that. I gave it my best shot. Given the coronavirus pandemic, I wouldn't have been surprised if we had started shooting for a full series and were shut down anyway. With Damien, I had an equal amount of story worked out, and it only went for 1 season. So you take what you can get. That's the business. I'm grateful I got to spend so much time in Midworld. I was there for 3 years. I haven't worked on it for more than a year, and I still have shots in my head. At that level of detail is still there. I'm disappointed people won't get to see it though. If the pilot were ever released, I think people would appreciate it. I think they appreciate the level of care and the level of detail and the work that went into making the immersive experience that was really tied to the characters. So that's the end of the article, but there is a couple more pictures here. So first one is the hero of the story, Martin Broadcloak.
Stop it.
I believe this is entering Hambry. And then, of course, the town killer, Roland Deschain, in the next picture here.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, full-on gunslinger. Looks like the same setting, I will say, as the last one. It's the same lighting and stuff, so I think this is probably him hot on the trail, getting into Hambry. And then next up, we've got Stephen Deschain, played by Jerome Flynn, enters the gates of Gilead. Which we had actually seen.
We guessed it, yeah.
Yeah, we saw we saw this set, basically. We saw shots of this set that were leaked back when they were still filming. We didn't necessarily see it with, like, the actual characters and horses, and, like, we saw it with, like, crew members and people in normal attire walking around and stuff. But we saw this, and we kind of guessed it was probably the gates of Gilead. And then the other ones here, they had some pictures that didn't really have, like titles below them, but this is certainly Gabrielle and Stephen. I'm guessing there's some marital strife going on there. I have no idea what this is. I really don't. We've got a gunslinger, but it's, like, kind of interesting because you've also got some pretty modern looking stuff there. I don't know if this maybe has something to do with hacks and poisoning or what, but very weird. And then this next one, I don't know. My first thought was Rhea with this. But I don't know what this is either. There's kind of some mixture stuff. There's some mechanical looking stuff on the right, but then you've got candles and stuff. You definitely got the pink glow, which makes me think, and it just feels like a Rhea.
It feels like a Rhea, but I could also see it being like, what's his name, Van A?
Yeah.
The teacher.
Yeah, because then you got the skeleton thing up on the wall. Yeah, so it could be a classroom for sure. But yeah, they didn't have subtitles there. I will say there is definitely more to this article. I didn't want to, like, grab everything, and there's, like, some stuff where they talk about stories, like, during shooting and stuff. Apparently they had some pretty nasty weather, and, like, there's a lot more to this article. I just wanted to kind of hit the highlights of what was most important for, like, the Dark Tower side. But there's a lot more to it, so definitely check out the show notes and go and read up the rest of this article. It's a pretty good work by what did it say? What was the name of the guy here? Another film nerd.
Yeah,
it's not very often that we get these articles that have people using, like, I don't know what you call it, like a pseudonym or whatever. Usually they have, like, real names, but not in this case. So yeah, pretty painful. Then what did I miss in the chat here?
Robert says, "Oh man, this hurts. I still can't understand. You're 50 million deep into this and don't even show it."
Yeah.
Like, cut your losses at that point. It's just like,
Yeah. And I mean, the thing is I have thought, it's funny because I've been thinking about this at random. It was even like a week ago or so. I think I was like in the shower and I was thinking about like the pilot and stuff. And I'm like, is it better that it just died here versus like getting into like season 1 or season 2 and then getting canceled?
See, that's part
because like I don't know, like then you have what you have and you could at least grasp that. But like I almost think it'd be worse though if we got into this like a year or two and then it got canceled.
7 seasons. Like, he had plans.
No, I know, but doesn't mean it won't get canceled.
No. What I'm saying is like I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah,
is that if he had 7 seasons planned and we only got season 2 where Gabriella dies.
Yeah.
Was killed.
Pretty much would have been book 4 in a nutshell.
It would have been book 4 there, and that we would have had that. I would have been okay there. But what if he had got what if we had gotten 3 seasons?
Yeah,
and then it gets canceled.
Yeah,
like, I see what you're saying.
What if you just got to the end of the drawing of the 3 and then it got canceled? And Jake's dead, and you've got Susanna is finally like whole, and Eddie's there, like, and then at that point, there's just that heartbreak. Like he mentioned Damien, like Damien was basically his spin on the Omen. It was like a retelling of the Omen, and like the whole thing was planned to be this whole elaborate like whatever, and it just got canceled after 1 season. So it's just. That's a shitty thing about TV, man. You know me. I don't get into TV shows usually until I know they've
got a few seasons. Yeah,
they're established a little bit because it breaks my heart when shows get canceled. Like I couldn't imagine this getting canceled. I think that would have hurt me more. I think than just hearing how good this would have been.
For me though, the one thing that I will say is that there would be that hope that someone else picks it up. We've seen it a lot recently.
Still, I'm hoping for Hannibal, and it hasn't happened.
Hannibal, I mean, we both watched Brooklyn Nine-Nine.
Yeah.
Went from Fox to NBC.
Yeah, that one pretty much didn't even like slow. Like it was like canceled one day, picked up the next with another.
Yeah, and then they re-upped and ready for a next season and everything. And there's shows that have had that happen. But there is also the Firefly treatment. I mean, the most infamous like TV show.
Yeah.
Fox showed the episodes out of order. The fans were confused. They didn't understand.
Yeah.
And
Sarah Connor Chronicles got canceled right as it was getting good. Yep. Like I think it was 2 seasons in.
And they all had high ratings too.
Yeah, it's just
like Sarah Connor Chronicles were very highly regarded.
Yeah.
But then you got Prison Break that has 5 seasons after they get out of prison.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So I don't know. It's a catch-22 for me.
Yeah.
I don't know what would have been worse. Like I know this sucks. But I could just feel how much more painful it could be, like in my mind's eye, if we had actually gotten some of this, and then it got killed.
I still would have. It's better to have loved than lost than never to have loved at all.
Don't get philosophical on me.
No, I'm serious though. Like that's the thing. It's like it's okay, Tad. Let's be perfectly honest. Would you take 7, 8, and 9 back, Star Wars, and never have them?
I mean, I think
you had some issues with some of them.
Yeah,
so
that's tough though, because I think it's one of those things where it's like if it doesn't exist, then it could just whatever happens after. In the case of Star Wars, it could just exist as it is in your mind. Like you could imagine your own things. Like, but once something's put on film, it's like, well, now that's it. So like, whether you like it, love it, hate it, somewhere in between, like that's it. Like that's how it continues on, right? So I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough debate. I think everyone maybe even has a different take on it. But yeah, I was thinking about that. It was like maybe a week or 2 ago. I don't know why it just randomly came into my mind, like the pilot, and I was just like thinking about canceled TV shows. I'm like, God, dude, I can only imagine though. Yeah, we get into like season 3 or 4, and like, you're almost halfway there, and then it gets fucking canceled, dude. Oh,
it gets canceled.
Would have killed me.
Gets canceled right after Jericho Hill.
Yeah, that would have killed me. Would have been
At
terrible.
least I would have got to see Jericho Hill.
Yeah, that's true.
My number one, if we could have something new from the Dark Tower, would be Jericho Hill.
Yeah, in terms of book,
series, comic, I don't fucking care.
Yeah,
give me Jericho Hill.
Yeah. So that's that pain. So let's go ahead and move on to maybe less painful stuff, even though it may be less fun for our sake here with Peter. But let's go ahead and take a look at the next one, which Peter might be happy about. Remake of Stephen King's Firestarter, starring Zac Efron, to film in Hamilton next month.
Yeah.
And this has been a minute. This is we haven't done a roundtable in a minute, so some of this stuff is going back a ways. That last one was April 1st. This one's April 29th, 2021. So it says Zac Efron is coming to Hamilton. And no, I'm sorry, this is from Daniel Nolan from the Hamilton Spectator on April 29th, 2021. So this is a local paper for Hamilton. So it says Zac Efron is coming to Hamilton. The actor probably best known for playing Troy Bolton in the High School Musicals trilogy from Disney will be in the city to film a remake of Firestarter. Reports say that the film from Blumhouse/Universal Studios will also be filmed in Toronto. The phone number for the production company is a Hamilton number. Shooting is expected to run from between May 25th and July 21st. Says the government agency Ontario Creates, which is So that means we're in the middle of it right now in real time. They're filming. So. Then it goes on and says Hamilton may also have another visit from Stephen King to see how filming is going. He came to the city to see the filming in the miniseries adaptation of his 2011 novel 11/22/63 in 2015. That series starred James Franco. So, just a fun little thing there. Again, some of this is like a little ways behind since they are actually filming now. But so that's one update we have there. And then Stephen King sent a tweet. Because this was actually basically tweeted by Bev Vincent, and he tweeted Firestarter remake starting Zac Efron to film in Hamilton, and then Stephen King replied and says, "I'm sending the cast and crew a hunka bird in love." Good little Elvis reference there, as well as obviously fits the Firestarter thing there. So Cy King staying funny as ever. His Twitter is definitely an interesting one to watch. Like at times he'll because even just like the email updates. Like there's some shows that are really hot right now that he's been tweeting about and stuff, and like then that causes people to like write articles about. Well, Stephen King's talking about this show, and apparently one just ended. I think it's the mayor of Easttown, or I can't remember the name of the show. Something Easton or something like that.
It's HBO, right?
I don't even know. I just know it's really big and it's got a lot of talk. Apparently, Stephen King called the ending of it early on in the show. He predicted on Twitter the ending, and it turned out to be true. So yes.
Oh, did he really?
Yeah. So he's definitely a fun one on Twitter. So the next one here, and this is the spoiler one potentially, and I found this interesting, and the reason I wanted to cover it because it's just such a different spin on it. So it's 10 of the best Stephen King book endings. So I just feel like generally if we're talking Stephen King endings, it's usually people shitting on it. So for someone to take it and go, hey, I'm going to go the other direction and go the best ones, and this is a constant reader that wrote this.
Book endings. Okay.
Yeah. So Sam Haysom from Mashables on May 7th, 2021. First of all, right off the top of your head, what do you think when
11/22/63?
Okay, that's one that comes to your mind.
Mr. Mercedes.
Any others, Mr. Like in terms of like
we're doing
trilogy?
We're doing books. So individual book, Mr. Mercedes had a very good ending.
Okay.
11/22/63 is probably my number one.
Okay.
And I'm willing to stand by that one.
I'm just curious, like to kind of gauge you before we dive into this, like because I'm just curious, like again, kind of like we do with some of these. I want your reaction to each of these. Like, agree, disagree. Does it surprise you? Does it not surprise you that some of these make the list? Same thing with the people in the chat. Let us know what you guys think too.
Travis asked a question, and let me. find it.
Revival is not happening anymore.
Okay.
That's dead. That's dead, Travis. First, Josh Boone was attached. And then Mike Flanagan was attached, and that it's pretty much dead in the water. I believe Josh Boone talked about it on a podcast. It may have even been the Stand podcast.
It was the Stand podcast, yeah.
And he talked about meeting Flanagan, and they Flanagan's on that podcast, so maybe they talked to each other because Flanagan was a regular on that Stand podcast, and then I think Boone showed up for like one of the later episodes, and they mentioned both of them. Basically, I think it turned into a thing that was just cost prohibitive because it takes place over decades, so you would have to have had either like multiple casts or you'd be doing aging up and down. It just would have been a very expensive one. So that one is not happening anymore. We covered that some time back, but in terms of movie. So, and then Robert, for this one, this is just for the books, this best King endings. Okay, so then starts off, says Stephen King gets a lot of flack for his endings. It's been happening for years now. Opinion pieces have been written on the topic, some of which the horror author has responded to himself. In the second chapter of the film adaptation of It, King makes a cameo in a brilliantly meta scene in which he played a cantankerous shopkeeper, which I love that, cantankerous, that's a fun one. Casually dismissing author Bill Denvero's offer to sign his novel copy by telling Bill he didn't like the ending. The ending of the novel of It was one of King's most famously divisive, which I actually don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if it gets thrown out there as a bad ending of Kings.
Really?
Yeah, I've never. I think that.
I'm not really. I'm agreeing with you.
Yeah. No, I follow you, but I don't. Sometimes I see things that people write in these articles. I'm like, I don't agree with that. I don't think it.
Anyone in the chat had an issue with the ending of it?
Like the original series, people shit on it because of how terrible it's executed.
But we're talking book.
But just
here.
a book, I don't think I've never heard people complain about the ending of it. So that's a new one on me. Then
I know people who had an issue with a part of the ending.
Yes,
being very, very hard to read and hard to stomach. I understand that, but the ending itself, I mean, I don't. Yeah,
that's a new one to me. And then he says at this stage, the whole thing has pretty much become an in joke, which I do remember in It Chapter 2, because you could like hear who the King fans were in the audience, because like
we were laughing.
There was only a couple laughs, like in a theater of a couple hundred people. Like I'd say that less than a dozen people probably laughed loud at that. And then some other people, there was just like that confused like laughter of like, oh, he's kind of calling him a shitty, but like they don't get the joke. Like they're just kind of laughing because like maybe it's slightly funny that this like bookstore owner shitting on the character. But so I remember that from the theaters. Then it goes on, says, obviously things like this are subjective, but as a longtime King fan, I'd say there are a few of his books I've come away feeling let down by the finales. But there are just as many, if not more, where the endings were simply brilliant. So the way he has this structured is he gives he gives the title and he says what's it about and then how does it end. Kind of short, couple maybe a paragraph for each thing. So that's just to kind of let you know how we're going ahead with it here.
Travis put a bunch of hashtags: hashtag Kickstarter, hashtag Dark Tower Palaver Productions, hashtag revival. Wait.
Yeah, revival,
and hashtag Tad is terrible. All of those I can get behind, especially the hashtag Tad is terrible.
And you can find that if you want to slander me as well as Peter. That is one of the shirts we're offering is the hashtag Tad is terrible.
Yep.
So the first one he's got is a very timely one is Lizzy's story, which just debuted yesterday on Apple Plus. I'm
going to get the ending spoiled for me.
How much do you know about the actual story? Because like
0.
So I actually just started reading it. I'm maybe 6 or so hours in. It's like an 18-hour book, and I do the audio book. So me, I read this and I'm just like, cool, like whatever. But it says, what's it about? Soon to be an Apple TV Plus, which is the stupidest fucking Apple TV Plus. Like, it just doesn't feel sleek to me.
Why didn't they just call it Apple TV?
Because they already have, that's the name of their device.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
So the soon-to-be Apple TV Plus series, penned by King himself, Lizzy's story centers on a widow of a famous author, Scott Landon, who follows a series of mysterious clues left by her late husband after she begins the task of cleaning out his study. This breadcrumb trail leads to the eponymous protagonist to discover a strange and frightening world that she'd previously repressed, a world that Lizzy's husband had known about since his own traumatic childhood, and what she must navigate while attempting to avoid the real-world threat of an obsessive stalker.
Oh.
And then how it ends, the exact reversal of the aforementioned Stephen King stereotype. Lizzy's story starts slow before building to a spectacularly imaginative and surprisingly poignant conclusion. All of the secrets are unlocked in this one, from the fact that Lizzy's husband Scott was forced to kill his own abusive father when he was younger, through to his own death at the hands of a interdimensional monster that stalked his secret dream world at night. So this is so far the book's very grounded, everything I've read of it personally, but like I've kind of heard even before this, I heard that it kind of
takes
like
a left turn.
It gets very Kingian in the fact that it starts to like maybe change genres and stuff, very Dark Tower like. And it says eventually it ties together right up to the final story that Lizzy discovers her late husband has hidden for her, an emotional goodbye message, and some parting advice on how to keep the very real demons at bay. So. Yeah, that I'm looking forward. Like I said, I'm in the middle of reading it now. I'm looking forward to watching it. Julianne Moore is a national treasure, so I can't wait to see her performance there.
Oh, is she Lizzy?
Yeah, she's Lizzy. And then
Lizzy.
Oh, I'm blanking on the guy's name now. Who was the guy in Inside Man or whatever that movie you really?
Denzel Washington?
No, the other guy plays her husband. I can't remember.
Clive Owen.
Yeah, I think it's Clive Owen plays the husband. So. yeah, that's I'm looking forward to watching it. I'm reading it right now, so yeah, that sounds like it's I'm in for a wild story here. Okay, so number 2, Carrie.
Hell yeah.
Carrie, what is it about? And like to me, like it made me think when I read this, is like, hold on, let me just stop real quick. Does anyone need Carrie explained to them at this point, do you think, in general society? Or do you think that Carrie has become so, like...
I don't know. I don't know if, honestly, my wife hasn't read a single thing by Stephen King.
But if you mentioned Carrie, do you think she's going to...
Well, we've watched Carrie together, so she's seen it. Never mind.
Yeah, I just wonder if Carrie's gone to the point of, like, pop culture that it doesn't even need to be explained anymore. But I don't know, maybe not.
Ooh, I own Lizzie's story. Ooh.
Oh, yeah? So then it goes on, a bullied high school girl who is dominated and oppressed by her Christian fundamentalist mother unlocks a telekinetic ability and decides to use it for revenge on her tormentors. Yeah, so there's that. How does it end? Happy endings are all very well and good, but sometimes you just want to watch the world burn. That is quite literally what happens at the end of this book when Carrie White goes on a spree of destruction that starts at the high school, which is the source of so much of her pain. And then she says she sets it on fire before heading back home for a final confrontation with dear old mom. Carrie stops her mother's heart using the power of her mind. It's not the cheeriest ending, sure, but it's thrilling and fitting finale for this dark story. So definitely a good synopsis there. And I actually remember really loving the ending of that one. I can't say as much about Lizzie's story, but for Carrie, so again, I guess Lizzie's story you can't speak to because you haven't read it. But what about Carrie? Agree, disagree? Are you surprised it's on the list?
It's an okay ending. It's kind of a bummer that Carrie dies, but I think that it's a satisfying ending. One of King's good ones for sure. Yeah, I can see why it's on the list.
Okay. So then, as Travis brought up earlier, Revival is number 3. I guess I can change the slide as well. And this one, it says, what is it about? The troubled relationship between drug addict Jamie Morton and faith healer Charles Jacobs, who embark on a series of strange experiments using a special type of secret electricity he discovered. Revival charts their relationship over the course of decades, from Jamie's childhood and the sudden death of Charles' wife and child to their final nightmarish experience together. How does it end? Revival might not be for everyone, but if you're a fan of cosmic horror, and it says in parentheses, as I am, you'll probably love it. As Jamie learns during the final experiment that Charles ropes him into, all of the man's work has actually been gearing up to one thing: discovering what awaits in the afterlife so that he can finally learn the fate of his wife and son. As we discover at the novel's impressive, brutal conclusion, though, it's not some form of paradise or heaven. It's actually a horrific, Lovecraftian nightmare realm where human beings are enslaved by ant-like monsters under the command of an ancient being called Mother that lives above the sky. Yikes. So,
what the fuck?
Isn't that like so King?
Yes.
It just feels like perfect for him.
That's horrible.
I love the spirit of it.
Yeah, you would.
And then Travis says cosmic horror is my favorite. Definitely one of the ending of that one had a reputation enough to where I kind of understood that like it was pretty brutal. But that's a good little recapping of it. But yeah, you haven't read it, so I don't know. We'll just skip it in terms of your reaction. Number 4, though, I believe you've read, and that is Misery.
Hell yeah.
So let's see. It starts off, says, what is it about? After crashing his car in a snowstorm, famous novelist Paul Sheldon is rescued by former nurse Annie Wilkes. Annie is a huge fan of Paul's Misery novels, and I would stop there and say no, his biggest fan. And soon becomes clear that she isn't planning to let him leave anytime soon. How does it end? The ending of Misery isn't necessarily mind-blowing, but it is satisfying. It's satisfying because the entire book is excruciatingly tense. The final confrontation between Paul and Annie, when he finally, after months of suffering her torture, manages to get the best of her after burning a decoy copy of the book she made him write, is such a sweet relief from the nerve-shredding tension that we've endured up until then. Yeah. So that's kind of his recap of it. So what do you think? Misery, agree, disagree? Yeah. I remember, the main thing I remember from it is his vision of her being back
at the restaurant.
Like that is like that's like a stark image in my mind, even outside of the movie. And I know the movie kind of plays on that a bit, but just the picture that my mind painted, which is still the movie actors, because that's I mean, she is Annie
How
Wilkes.
do you not have Kathy Bates in your head as Annie Wilkes?
Yeah, so that's exactly what's in my head. But I painted the picture of it using those actors in my head as I read it, and yeah, that's like, to me, probably one of the biggest portions of the ending, the most memorable thing. So definitely is not one that I'm not surprised to see it. The next one here is one that I actually am a little bit surprised to see on here. I'll see what you think. Number 5 is Under the Dome.
Yeah, I could.
Because I've heard some people complain about it, that they weren't really a fan of the ending of it.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the whole book, but I don't know that the ending ever necessarily stood out to me. I was just surprised to see it because I honestly, if there were 2 lists, 10 best, 10 worst, if you said Under the Dome was on one of them, I would have guessed it'd be on the worst before I'd guess it was on the first or the best.
Yeah.
In my mind,
agreed.
Just by what I've seen from other people and the way they've reacted. Again, I don't hate it. It's not like where I would put it, but it's just where I would expect someone to put it. So what's it about? When a small town in Maine, that's weird, it's in Maine, is suddenly cut off from the outside world by an invisible and impassable barrier, its inhabitants are forced to adapt to their claustrophobic new confinement. How does it end? Like much of King's work, Under the Dome it is really about all the characters, a story about ordinary townsfolk slowly turning on each other in an inescapable setting. But that being said, there's still a central mystery of the dome itself. Where did it come from? How did it get there? I was worried that the answer to these questions might be disappointing in the end if they were answered at all. But I was pleasantly surprised. As we realize at the book's finish, the dome has actually been put in place by a spawn of some far-off, higher alien species that is essentially treating the captured townsfolk like miniature toys. As human children might burn ants with a magnifying glass, the aliens are playing a cruel game with the town just to test the effects. And like honestly, that even feels like kind of revivalish to me. It feels very cosmic horror in some ways, where it's like
it's terrifying to think that's out there then. Going forward,
and the fact that like literally you're the ant in the ant farm, and they might put the magnifying glass to you. Like it's just I remember not hate. I like I didn't hate the ending of it by any means, but I just know that some people have shit on it over the years.
Yeah.
The next one, you will not be surprised because it's the one that you mentioned. 11/22/63 is number 6. It says, what's it about? After discovering a doorway that leads to the past, specifically the year 1958.
I don't know about discovering as so much as show.
Being shown, yeah. Huh. English teacher Jack Epping goes on a mission to stop the assassination of JFK. How does it end? An excellent blend of sci-fi, romance, and historical thriller. 11/22/63 comes to a head when Jake successfully prevents Kennedy's assassination, but in doing so causes the death of Sadie Dunhill, a woman he met in the past and fell in love with. Just to add to the misery, Jake finds that when he travels back to the present day, the world hasn't improved as much as he thought it would. It's actually gotten significantly worse. His hometown is in ruins, and the U.S. plagued by radiation and earthquakes. After going back in time to reset his actions, Jake then returns to the present and goes to visit an 80-year-old Sadie. She doesn't recognize him because in this timeline they never met before, but she does experience deja vu as they share a poignant dance. So,
wasn't Maine like seceded from the United States and part of Canada in his?
I don't remember. I remember that. I remember some aspects of the overall thing, but I don't remember every aspect. Yeah. I need to read that one again. I loved it though. I agree wholeheartedly with this one. I honestly think 11/22/63 is probably a top 5 King book of all time. I think that it really stands up there with the giants of the past. Good. Like I really do think it's incredible, and the ending is incredible too. Like especially me as a fan of like sci-fi, I've mentioned every time. So like the whole idea of like seeing a change played out, like how does that affect the future? Like that kind of shit, dude, geeks me the fuck out. So like I would have taken a whole book of just when he goes back through the door to see the results of JFK surviving. Like that to me is like amazing. Not to mention the rest of it. Like the dance.
Well, you also get that earlier in the book with what's his name, the dad that murders the family.
Yeah,
and makes the janitor a little slow.
Yeah,
because he beats him with is it an axe that he goes after him with, or is it?
I'm kind of hazy on it. It's
been
a while.
Yeah, I don't remember what he uses, but seeing how that turned out and seeing him, he survived and his sister survived.
Yeah.
But then he ends up dying in Vietnam because he wasn't disabled.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
it's a cruel thing.
Yeah.
And by it I mean Stephen King, because he's the one that creates it all. So that's that one. Not a surprise. Next one, The Dead Zone. Have you read The Dead Zone?
I'm trying to read what it's about.
So what it's about, and I actually read this one fairly well within the last couple of years, so this one's pretty fresh. After a sudden accident sends him into a 5-year coma, Johnny Smith wakes up to discover he can tell what will happen in someone's future just by touching them. But when he crosses paths with an upcoming politician, Greg Stilson, he sees a nightmarish vision that pushes him to act.
Yes, I have read this one.
Okay, yeah, I loved this one, dude. I couldn't fucking stop with this one. Like, this is one like over the top. I was like staying in my car as I was like listening to it. Like I'd arrive somewhere and I just like sit and listen for another 10 minutes and stuff. It was, yeah, I couldn't put this one down. It was a great one. How does it end? Haunted by images of a nuclear apocalypse, Smith acquires a gun and attempts to assassinate Stilson. He misses and is shot by bodyguards, but during the attempt, Stilson is photographed picking up a child and attempting to use them as a human shield. As Smith lies dying, he touches Stilson one final time and sees that his actions have changed the course of the future, with the photograph effectively ending the man's career in politics.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a good ending because you just
you were so like, damn it, he missed. Like,
yeah.
Oh no.
Yeah.
And then he finds out that he still succeeded.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely a good one. And then Robert saying the ice is gonna break. Yeah. I just blanked on his name all of a sudden. That played him in the movie. It's Shrek from Batman 2, Batman Returns. Why am I?
Christopher Walken.
Walken, yeah. I don't know why his fucking name just escaped me. He plays the main character in the movie. So.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and the ice is going to break is one of the more iconic lines from that. So from the movie especially. So next up, and this one, I'm not showing favoritism with this slide. It's just that, it is one that probably has the most covers. I was like, because I like Google most of these. I'm trying to find like something that'll fill the screen in a decent way. And book covers tend not to because they tend to be very skinny. So I was like trying to find, and then with this one, like once I searched, like that was one of the first things that came up, and I'm like, okay, I'm using that one. It's the right shape. And honestly, if I had to pick one, I'd probably pick the one with the Reaper and the dude fighting there. Second one as well as the last one. Yeah, that's probably. But no, when I saw this, I'm like, okay, I'm throwing this one on, and it's not favoritism. What's it about? After a new virus wipes out over 99% of the population, society is left in tatters. The remaining survivors, depending on their nature, are pulled in two different directions. Some are drawn to an evil man called Randall Flagg in the west of the U.S., which I disagree with.
Speak truth.
I disagree with the word evil there. While others congregate around 108-year-old Mother Abigail in Boulder, Colorado. It soon becomes clear that the final battle is on the horizon. How does it end? Books don't always have to end with a mind-blowing twist or big reveal to be effective. The Stand's ending works purely because it's over the course of 1,000+ pages, we get to know the characters so well. Mm-hmm. Like George R.R. Martin's The Song of Ice and Fire, we really care about the people at the heart of the story, and when our favorites start dying, it's genuinely painful. Fortunately, unlike some of King's other tales, The Stand has notes of hope at the end. At one point, it's looking like one of the protagonists, Stu Redman, isn't going to make it, while another key character ends up dropping around him. While other characters are dropping around him, he somehow manages to come back from the brink. The story ends with Stu, his partner Franny, and their child starting a new life together in Maine, with the message being that humanity, despite the odds, will find a way to carry on. Mm-hmm. So, surprised on that one?
No.
You find it probably one that you'd maybe expect to be on the list?
Yeah.
I agree. And then number 9 is one that is definitely a good one, The Green Mile.
Oh, yeah.
What's it about? Elderly former prison guard Paul Edgecombe tells the story of John Coffey, a death row inmate convicted of rape and murder of twin girls. John's horrendous violent crime seems to be at odds with his gentle nature, though, and he also is revealed to have a mysterious ability to heal people by touching them. How does it end? It's a bittersweet ending. On the one hand, John is able to use his gifts to cure the prison warden's wife of terminal cancer. On the other, he's put to death for a crime he didn't commit. The final twist, which he reveals to Paul before he dies, is that the girls were actually killed by another inmate, Wild Bill Wharton, who has been sentenced to death for a different crime. The reason Coffey was found with the victims' bodies was that he was trying to use his powers to heal them, but was too late to save their lives. So, whether you've read it or seen it, it's pretty close.
Yeah.
But what do you think on this one?
Yeah, I forgot about this one, yeah.
Yeah, definitely a surprise because I don't know how often people enjoy sad endings.
It doesn't necessarily have to be.
No, I know.
You know,
but if somebody's given like their tops, like it's a surprise for me a little bit, not in a bad way, not like I completely disagree with you, but like, oh shit, you actually picked that one. Yeah. Like, okay, like, yeah, not a bad ending, but definitely not one where you're like, I can't wait to get to that ending. It's definitely not one of those. And then number 10, the last one, The Dark Tower.
Really, that shocks me.
Yeah. I don't know. I think there's really been a shift. Like, I think early on, the ending wasn't very popular. But I think over the last, like, maybe decade or so, I really think more people have come around to it and just come to appreciate it a lot more. I don't hear it shit on as much as we did back in the day. I feel like in like the early 2000s into maybe even the 2010s, like early on, like you heard a lot of people just shit on it constantly as a bad ending. But I just feel like it really shifted, and like now you don't hear that as much. So
right.
And this is interesting though, because what's it about? I was like, oh, Dark Tower. Let's see what he put. Let's see how he writes this out. It says, spanning multiple worlds and volumes, this epic series follows Roland Deschain, a Clint Eastwood-style gunslinger, on a quest to reach the Dark Tower, a legendary structure that supposedly exists at the center of all space-time. Deschain's world appears to be crumbling around him, and he hopes that he'll find answers, and then in parentheses, and possibly a way to fix everything when he reaches his goal. How does it end? How do you end a 4,000-plus page series that's all been building towards one final, inevitable, multiverse-sized mystery? Going in, this one seemed almost destined to be underwhelming. It seemed like it would be impossible to end such a monumental story on a satisfying note, but I have to say I think King pulled it off. The nature of time itself and parallel realities are a big focus of this series, so it's horribly fitting that when Roland finally reaches the summit of the tower and the final door in his quest, he doesn't unlock any higher secrets or answers. He simply emerges back in the desert right where he began his quest in the series' first installment. He is trapped in some kind of nightmarish circular time loop. The series' final line, "The man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed," is the same as its very first and best. Let's just be real here.
Jackass in the chat, he says, Peter, how would you rank your version of the Dark Tower ending when you didn't know about the loop? So me ending before the epilogue, basically. I prefer the ending with the epilogue much more. I am not a huge fan of, what's in the briefcase? What's a reference to Pulp Fiction? You know, like leave it up to your imagination.
Yeah. So wait, you're a fan of not knowing or knowing? I'm
a fan of knowing.
Okay.
I'm not a fan of, he might have lived, he might have died. Okay. I'm not a fan of that because to me, it kind of is like a cop-out. It's like, if you're going to tell a story, tell the story. Don't trail off and.
But does it matter like what's in the suitcase in Pulp Fiction? Like to me, like I enjoyed. I don't.
No. It's just one of the most famous ones in film.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I was just using it as an example. But for film endings, and story endings, if you're going to tell a story, tell the whole story. Don't leave me, guessing.
Yeah.
On what I feel, because I can go back and forth, and it's the same way with like the Dark Tower. If you don't read the epilogue. What does he find in there? Does he fix the universe? Everything like that.
So you don't want it to be left up to you. You'd rather no.
No, it's not my story. That's the thing. It's like I understand the whole we left it up to fan interpretation. And, some people will be pessimists and be like, oh yeah, he definitely died. Or there's, people that are optimistic and they're like, yeah, it totally came out. Everything was hunky dory.
Yeah.
Me, it's just fucking tell me. I don't care which way it goes. Just tell me.
Yeah.
Because I want to know the ending of your story.
So like very recently, I was thinking about the movie American History X. So allegedly that one originally was written to end with Edward Norton's character reshaving his head to kind of give you the idea that what happens at the end of that movie
sends him back
into the thing. But Edward Norton fought very hard that no, absolutely not. You need to leave it open to interpretation because it can go either way and let people kind of take from it what they will or put into it, whatever. So, yeah. So you're just saying in general you prefer the other way.
In general, for majority of the time, I would say I prefer to be told the ending.
Okay. Like I'm the opposite. General, not always, because there's some that you need an ending. But like one of my favorite movies was The Gray of the last couple decades, and that one ends. And I remember people being pissed off in the theaters when it came out because he gets to he's
He's fought all the way through the movie.
Yeah, and he gets to the wolf's den, and like he's getting ready to fucking fight these wolves, and it just cuts off before anything happens. And it's like some people are pissed because they wanted to see Samuel Jackson, Liam Neeson, fight a wolf, and it's like, to me, it's like that's not what the movie was about. It was more like existential, like, you know,
is he gonna survive? Is he not?
Yeah, like early in the movie, he's gonna commit suicide, and he doesn't, and then by the end, he's ready to fight for his survival. So it's like, to me, that's the point of the movie.
Yeah.
So like I like that, but then I end up finding like way later there's a post-credit scene where you actually see like kind of the results, and I'm like, that ruined it.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that ruined it for me.
Oh shit, I didn't even know that.
It's still kind of ambiguous, but it gives you more, and I'm like, no, I don't like that.
I know what I'm gonna have to go watch now.
I don't like, so no, and that's cool. It's art, right? Art's subjective, so everyone has their own thing. But I tend to be a little bit more like, I don't care what's in the briefcase in Pulp Fiction. I don't want to know, whatever, the box in Seven. You know, of course, we all know what's in there. Gwyneth Paltrow's head, but. Yeah, it's interesting. No,
see, like
but how did you interpret the ending before I told you there was more? What was your
anger
reaction overall?
Just
like
pure anger that I'm not going to get it. I spent 7 books. I went through 7 books. You killed my favorite character, for God's sakes. You killed his son. He was abandoned by his only other member of the quartet, and then you're not going to give me an ending.
Yeah.
Like, fuck you. Like, that's, to me, it almost comes across as almost lazy in some instances. I'm not saying it's that way for everyone. There are good ones where it's ambiguous what's happening, and obviously I can't think of a single fucking one.
I think it depends
now.
on the movie a lot of or the story, because sometimes the story is built where you need an ending of some kind of resolution. Other times you don't. Like, I think The Grey is a perfect example. Like, you don't need an ending. Like, the whole point there is he went from a dude that wanted to kill himself to a guy that's going to fight for his survival. There's other ones though, like
the ones that are like ambiguous endings that I absolutely adore are horror films.
Yeah,
leave the door open for a sequel.
Yeah,
don't shut it tight and then have to try to explain it.
Yeah,
leave it open. Michael Myers being gone at the end of Halloween. Yeah, great ending. Yeah. I'm okay with that. That's a different animal. Yeah. But if you're going to tell me a story over 7 books, get me all the way to the tower, and then stop when Roland walks inside and I don't get to see what happens. Yeah. Like, no, fuck off. Yeah. Like, no, I hate that. I hate it. Okay, because you were coming from an experience of one that didn't read it at first. So, like, for you've actually experienced both ways. Mm-hmm. So that's interesting. I told you I didn't like it. Like, I'm like, that was a kind of... I don't remember. It's been a while. I told you how I worded it, because I think it was through text message. I was like... oh, that ending kind of sucked. And you're like, what do you mean? I'm like, well, he just gets there and that's it. And you're like, well, yeah, because like that's part of it, is that he's back at the beginning. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? And you're like, well, what are you talking about? I'm like, he gets to the tower and he walks in and that's it. And you're like, didn't you read the epilogue? And I'm like, no, the epilogue is like the author's thing at the end. And you're like, no, it's more of the story. And I'm like, oh, fuck. So Travis says, I was pretty mind blown by the ending of Dark Tower the first time. I can't lie, though. I was mad, too. I didn't hate it, just angry. So, yeah. And that's the thing, is like an ending can make you upset. It can make you mad. It can make you sad. That's fine. Yeah. When I watch The Crow, I go to the ending of the movie, and I'm bummed out. But I feel good that, the character, Eric, got there. He's gonna rest now, that kind of thing. It's not a happy ending, but I'm happy with it. Yeah. Then Robert says, I had more issues with the simple ending of The Crimson King than The Tower, which is definitely, that's one that... that's a huge point that a lot of people have. Yeah, that's one a lot of people have issue with. Carol says, I always thought it was a mind-blowing ending, one of the best of all time. I guess since I didn't have anyone to talk to about it, I didn't know about the hate. Which that's definitely a part of it too. If you're not plugged into any kind of online community, you may not know how anyone else interpreted it. And then she says, speaking of the whole series, that is, and then Travis says to Robert, agreed. I wish The Crimson King would have been much more of an issue to contend with. That is a letdown for me. I wonder why King wrote it that way. Honestly, I think with the Crimson King stuff, I think it just comes down to like, I think King's, I think we've had somebody mention this in the past. I've kind of latched onto it. Is King's kind of deconstructing storytelling, and like the whole idea of Deus Ex Machina like type stuff. Like in a way, he already built the Crimson King to be unbeatable. Like you can't beat him. Yeah. Like there's almost no way to beat him. So I just think like
King's kind of like deconstructing like the agreement you have with the, like he has as an author with the audience, and he's like, you know, talking to us directly. He's pulling characters in other books at random, and he's, you know, like gifting, you know, Patrick to Roland and Susanna because they saved his life, you know.
Yeah.
Like and so all of it gets very like meta and out there and stuff. But I think it's just one of those things like, I don't know, like, would it be that much more if Roland just like had a fucking High West duel with the Crimson King outside of the tower in some way? Like, would that have been more satisfying? I just ask that at times because I don't know, like, how else could it have gone? I guess, like, because I don't know how it would have been satisfying, really.
Yeah, because
if it's just Roland, if it's just Roland that guns him down,
yeah, we have Roland versus the Crimson King in a duel.
Yeah,
Roland's gonna kill him.
Yeah, and it's like, so I just don't know, like, and I'm not disagreeing with you guys that it was like maybe kind of a letdown, but I just don't know the best way to do it better.
No, that's fair, but that's also, you know, something that you can come to that conclusion a year or two after reading it, or the third or fourth time reading it, and that's definitely, I understand where they're coming from, where it's a gut reaction to the first time.
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, if you build up a big bad, you know, let's build up Megatron from the Transformers. Build him up. He's coming. Or Thanos. You know, let's use a more modern, you know, take that everyone. Thanos is coming. Oh, God. And then Thor kills him. Like, imagine if Infinity War had been Thor went for the head.
Yeah.
Like, dude, admit it. As a fan of Thanos, you would have been like, that's fucking stupid.
Yeah.
And that's the point. I mean, I could see where they're coming from, because I felt the same way. I'm like, so he just got erased? All right. Like, Roland didn't even do shit.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Yeah, and then Carol says, I knew at the end that he started over because he didn't have the horn to blow. I realized it from the poem. He has to get the horn, which that's a good call.
It is. It's in the
pulling from the poem more. So yeah, that's a good call. So okay, let's go ahead and move on. There's still some conversation in the chat, but I'm just going to push on the news side. We can definitely get back to the chat as well, if you can keep an eye on it here.
Jack says the ending was great. For me, was great. It was also a wonderful way to continue pondering the loop and the story. But does that make the ending less? So that's an interesting question about that.
Yeah. Okay, so the next one here is Julianne Moore on starring in Stephen King's genre-bending Lizzie story. Holy cow, what now is the headline by Lauren Huff from Entertainment Weekly on May 10th, 2021. And it says, when Julianne Moore initially signed on to star in and executive produce Lizzie's story, she wasn't at all familiar with, Lizzie's story. She just knew that she wanted to work with Stephen King, which that's interesting.
Yeah.
You know, that because I don't know. I just, in my head, I'd be like, oh, somebody handed her to the book, said, read this. Like, we should adapt it or something. Like, but the fact that she's like, no, I just want to work with Stephen King. Like, oh, Lizzie's story, cool, let's do that. And she hasn't read it. Like, that's kind of a surprise to me. I don't know why. It just is.
I'm not surprised that someone wants to work with Stephen King.
No, not at all. Not with that at all. But it's just the fact that she didn't at least read it to like see like, is this something I want to do?
Yeah.
You know, I don't know. That's cool though. She's just like, yeah, fuck it. Let's roll with something, King. Then there's a quote from her. It says, I was attracted to it because of Stephen, and also because it was something that was so personal to him. Moore says she's familiar with some of the beloved author's early works. Explains, quote, one of the things that really that's amazing about Stephen and his writing is that he's able to explore human relationships, but in a fantastical way. This story was sort of investigating the idea of an adult, mature relationship and a long-term one, a marriage, and what it meant to them personally, the secrets that they shared. Then it says, based on his best-selling 2006 novel, the same name, Lizzie's story follows Lizzie Landon Moore 2 years after the death of her famous novelist husband, Scott Landon, Clive Owen. Hounded by a sinister fan obsessed with getting their hands on Scott's unpublished manuscripts, played by the eerie Dane DeHaan, and faced with a series of unsettling events involving her sister, Joanne Allen, in a stunning turn, Lizzie is forced to confront memories of her dead husband that she had repressed. And then let's see, anything in the chat. I didn't want to sound like I was blowing past everything here.
No, we're good.
Because I know that if we just go with just the chat and don't push forward, we'll just end up here chatting and with nothing.
Especially since we were talking about the ending of the Dark Tower. There's a lot there.
Yeah, but if there's any more points that were added, we could definitely circle back to it.
Yeah.
And it says King, who himself had a scary encounter with a stalker, has said that he was inspired to write the book after he came home from a long hospital stay to find that his wife had reorganized his study, making him feel, quote, like a ghost in his own home. Although it's not autobiographical, the story is deeply personal to King, which is why, though he usually takes a hands-off approach to his adaptations, he felt so strongly about writing all 8 episodes. He's even gone so far as describing the book as his favorite among his works, which is true. We definitely know. We've actually covered that over the last couple of years, where he's been asked like, "What's your favorite work?" and he's said Lizzie story pretty consistently. So it is definitely his favorite. And then this next up is a quote from Cy King himself. It says, "I never would have gotten involved with this thing at my age if it wasn't." King, who was 73, tells EW, they're all my favorites. I love them all. Some of them are difficult children to love. Some of them are a little bit easier. This is a little bit difficult to love, but I've always loved the story, and that's the reason I got involved. So good quote from him there. It says, in fact, he says he keeps the rights. He kept the rights to the story to himself because he knew he wanted to be the one to adapt it. And it wasn't until he saw the assassination of Giovanni Versace, American Crime Story of all things, that he felt that he had to make it happen. And another quote from King, it says, "I looked at that thing and I said to myself, my goodness, this guy Tom Rob Smith wrote the whole thing. He wrote all 8 or 9 episodes, and I thought, well, if he could do that and bring it home and do such a good job, what about Lizzie?" he said. Which is interesting. That's always fun to see, just some random show, which I've heard some good things about that. But just that random thing was the thing that sparked him to go, hey, I've always loved that kind of stuff. Like Terminator 2, it was like famously like what Steven Spielberg saw and went, maybe we could do this Jurassic Park with like computer effects instead of just practical effects. Let's do both, and then seeing Jurassic Park was like, Lucas is like, okay, it's time I could finally do my next trilogy because technology is where it needs to be. So I just love those kind of things where like one thing sparks another, sparks another, sparks another. That kind of stuff always fascinates me. So the fact that show is what sparked King to finally pick up the old pencil and adapt Lizzie into a script is pretty cool.
Yeah, he wrote it by hand.
I think he does do some handwritten, but a lot of he does do word processors as well. But
I know that's the one that I've always seen him reference when he does like his author's notice, like, I got my trusty word processor out, and he probably does. I think he does type more, but I don't know. I feel like I've heard him talk about handwritten notes at times too. And he's glad he waited, thanks to the rise of recent years of streaming platforms and the flexibility they present. Quote, "The whole form of long-form TV has opened up in a way that wasn't before. You have a chance to do more. You could be a little bit more graphic with language and sexual situations and with length, and have the chance to do something that has that kind of spread, texture, and a little more nuance. For a guy like me, it's great," he says, which is true. I mean, it's the reason that, we have such a golden age of content right now is because suddenly things that would have been made into movies back in the day are now being made into, limited series and stuff. And it just is allowing for a richer experience. The stuff like Daredevil, where the violence in that would not have been able to go on television. Yeah. Even on cable.
Yeah, exactly. Or something like Breaking Bad. Imagine if somebody tried to do that as a 2-hour movie. It may have been an okay movie, but I guarantee it wouldn't have been one of the greatest things of all time, like the show is now.
Yeah.
Then it goes on and says, "Fans of the book will be happy to know that the show is incredibly faithful to its source material, right down to all the genre hopping. It's all in there." This is a quote. "It's all in there because there's so much in it: psychological horror, romance, mystery, science fiction, light quality, sort of scary brutality. Sometimes I was like, holy cow, what now?" Moore said with a laugh. So yeah, that's that's kind of a tell if we didn't know from that earlier article that Lizzie's story is not just a grounded story. There's a lot going on.
Right.
The Oscar-winning actress hopes that for all the fantastical moments and twists and turns, viewers will see themselves reflected in the material, whether it's the connection to one's career, family, relationship, or bond between couples. For her, when it comes to Lizzie's story and the marriage at its center, the takeaway is simple. Quote, it's that marriage is worthwhile, she says. It's interesting because in so much of entertainment, you need conflict right from the get-go to make it entertaining. They don't always explore that time from the time you get married to the end of it. So I think it's unusual in that it's an exploration of that kind of intimacy and an intimacy that without an imposed conflict. So that's an interesting thing there. And then she adds, "I think there's a reason that people couple up and want to have a partner and go through life together. And I think this is an exploration of the value of that." And then it ends here saying Lazy Story starts streaming on Apple TV Plus on June 4th. So as I said, as we're recording live, that was yesterday. So episode 1 is now available. So that's awesome. Okay, anything chat-wise we need to...
a couple of people talked about different ways to handle the Crimson King. You could pull in Trash Can Man with his nuke. The tower will still stand after that. Pull in the Null Dimension from Revival, or Carrie would have taken care of business. I'd also like to point out that Charlie from Firestarter would also handle the Crimson King and make him her bitch.
Oh, man. But old Patrick did a good job, though.
Patrick did just fine.
You know, it's funny because I just finished Insomnia not too long ago, and Patrick basically doesn't show up until the last, 50 pages probably. I mean, I was reading audio, doing the audio side, but I actually had forgotten that he was in that one. I'm like, I knew he was in another book, but I didn't realize it was Insomnia. I'm like, this is like an old man, and all this stuff. So I'm like, there's no, whatever. And so I was just like, there's other connections to the Dark Tower. I'm like, okay, this is why everyone connects to the Dark Tower. It's cool, I enjoy it and stuff. And then finally, when it reveals his name, I'm like, wait, what? I expected it to be a much bigger part of the book that he was in. So
Robert says, gotta binge Apple TV for a month, and Carol says, makes me want to watch it. Remember, they're doing weekly episodes, so if you want to binge it, wait till it's done, then do that free trial.
The 7-day free trial thing they have, yeah.
Okay,
so next up is going back to the literary side. And this is headline, Gwendy's Final Task, returns to Stephen King's Castle Rock and beyond. This is from Cemetery Dance Publications on May 13th, 2021, so this is like a press release. Cemetery Dance Publications is pleased to announce that Gwendy Peterson, heroine of the New York Times bestselling Gwendy's Button Box and Gwendy's Magic Feather, will return to bookstores everywhere on February 15th, 2022. In Gwendy's Final Task. So this is our first announcement of a King book in 2022. An original novel by Horror Giants, and it says in parentheses, Publisher Weekly. I'm guessing they're just saying Publisher Weekly called them that instead of these guys, since they obviously have a vested interest in you buying the book. Stephen King and Richard Chismar that will take readers on a spellbinding journey from Castle Rock to another famous cursed Maine town to MF1 space station, where Gwendy must execute a secret mission to save the world, and maybe all worlds. And have you read any of the Gwendy books? So there's only the one technically in King's pantheon, because then Chismar did the second book on his own. And then now King and he are doing the third one. So
I've never even heard of Gwendy.
Okay. So then it's let me get a quote from Stephen King here. And it says, several years ago, I was roadblocked on a story called Gwendy's Button Box. Richard Chismar rode to the rescue and finished it, Stephen King said. The little book that resulted was fun for us and fun for readers, so I was happy when Rich decided to write a sequel called Gwendy's Magic Feather. It was great to see Gwendy all grown up and succeeding not only in politics but as a writer. We both felt her story needed a third act. If that was, the act was a good one. We think that Gwendy's Final Task is a great conclusion to her story and hope that readers will agree.
Oh, so it's a trilogy. All right.
Yeah, so this is the third book in a trilogy. But like I said, King did the first one, or King and Chismar did the first one. Chismar just did the second one on his own. Now King is returning to help with the third one. So
Carol says, breaking news for me. Thanks.
Yeah. This wasn't too long ago. Did I forget?
You said it.
May 13th, 2021. Yeah. Okay. Then it says, Richard Chismar said, quote, spending time with Gwendy Peterson is always a joy, and writing of Gwendy's Final Task is a real pleasure from start to finish. Steve and I followed her to some unexpected places and had a heck of a lot of fun doing it. And then it goes on and says, and editor Ed Schlesinger said, Gwendy's Final Task is an astonishing collaboration. The epic finale of an unforgettable tale has truly taken on a life of its own. Constant readers should expect the unexpected in every suspense-filled moment spent with Gwendy Peterson. Gwendy's Final Task will publish in hardcover and ebook formats by Cemetery Dance Publications on February 15th, 2022. Simon & Schuster's Audio will publish the audiobook on the same day, with Gallery Books, an imprint of Simon & Schuster, publishing a trade paperback and its own ebook edition later in the spring. This is already shaping up to be a busy year for Stephen King and Richard Chismar. In addition to completing their works on the Gwendy Peterson trilogy, Scribner will publish Billy Summers by Stephen King, a novel about a killer for hire, on August 3rd, 2021, fastly approaching. And Gallery Books will publish Chasing Boogeyman by Richard Chismar, a story of a small-town evil that combines the storytelling power of Stephen King with the true crime suspense of Michelle McNamara, on August 17th, 2021. So,
oh, damn.
a couple books from both of those gentlemen coming up in the month of August. For everyone, I haven't read those either. I actually
I've never even heard of them.
I didn't know there was a second one even, because I remember I think Gwendy is on like the Stephen King checklist, but only the one. So when it mentioned a second one, I'm like, wait, a second one? Where the hell's the second one at? And then when I read this, it made sense. Oh, okay, so yeah, King was involved with the second one.
It's not from King.
Yeah, so that's fun. Then next up, we've got some update back to the film side. And this one is titled Lindsay Beer to direct new Pet Sematary movie at Paramount Players by Justin Kroll from Deadline on May 17th, 2021. And we've actually kind of been hearing about this Pet Sematary thing for a bit. We've covered a bit. At first it was being called a prequel, then they kind of backed off on that. Now we don't know what the hell it is.
Yeah.
But now it has someone attached here. It says Pet Sematary, Stephen King's self-proclaimed scariest property ever. Next installment in the franchise has gained momentum, and it looks like it has found a director. Sources tell Deadline that Lindsay Beer has signed on to direct Paramount Players' follow-up adaptation of the successful 2019 horror picture based on Stephen King's bestseller. Yeah, and that's what it's like. Follow-up could still be a prequel. Like, it's just following up. Like, I don't know. So it's still, there's not a lot of answers here in terms of like what it might be.
Yeah.
Beer has been one of the busiest screenwriters, and this will mark her directorial debut. The classic 1989 adaptation made history with Mary Lambert directing the picture, and its 1992 follow-up. And it was important to the studio executives to go back to the film's roots and have a female filmmaker at the helm. Beer has wanted to jump into the directing chair and saw this as a perfect opportunity. She also wrote the last script based off of, she wrote the latest script based off of Jeff Bueller, who wrote the first draft. Plot details are unknown at this time. The original story, which the 1989 and 2019 picture was also loosely based on, with their own different twists, followed a family after a tragedy strikes. A grieving father discovers an ancient burial ground behind his home with the power to raise the dead. The film will debut exclusively on Paramount Plus, that's I think maybe news to me. Lorenzo di Bonaventura, which he actually produced the first one, and Mark Varedian will produce. Beer has become one of the more sought-after female screenwriters in town, penning such big-budget pictures as Chaos Walking and Transformers: The Last Night. She's also writer and EP on Netflix hit series Sierra Burgess is a Loser. She also penned the upcoming live-action Bambi adaptation, and which I didn't know that was happening.
They're making a live-action Bambi?
Yeah.
All right.
That first couple scenes will be real fun.
Oh, yeah.
As well as was in the writer's room for Godzilla versus King Kong. Or Godzilla versus Kong is the name of it. So yeah, that's cool. Got a director attached and a new writer. So that's moving forward. I'm looking forward to hearing.
Yeah.
Because I think prequel makes sense. Like there's a lot of shit that was covered in the book that we've not really touched on yet. It's kind of like It, maybe not as deep as It, but it's kind of like It in that way. But at the same time, I could easily see them going sequel. Like it could. Same with It too, right?
Yeah.
Like if you wanted to just upset the defeat at the end, you could easily have It existing in the future.
Yeah.
So, or maybe a baby It.
Oh.
So that's a lot of fun. Next up, this is one I was excited for you. This one is Firestarter. Blumhouse reboot of Stephen King classics finds its Charlie in Ryan Kira Armstrong. And first look, that picture is indeed her as Charlie.
Yeah.
As well. So that is that. Yeah, I was looking forward to your reaction to seeing Charlie for the first time.
She's got like the overalls and everything. Oh, and she looks pissed.
So this is by Anthony D. Alessandro from Deadline on June 2nd, 2021. So we're getting caught up here. So American Horror Story and the Tomorrow War actress Ryan Kira Armstrong has landed the lead of the role Charlie in Blumhouse Weed Road Pictures and Universal's update of Stephen King's Firestarter. She is pictured above in what is the first look from the movie. So that's pretty fun. Now, do you recognize her at all?
No.
Okay, you should. Let me just finish this up here. So the role was made famous by Drew Barrymore in the original 1984 feature, repping the actress's first role following the uber blockbuster E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Armstrong was born in New York City in 2010, the youngest of five. She began her professional acting career in 2015. Her first audition was her first booking, her first recurring role in the beginning of The Life on the Road. To date, the actress has worked with Julie Taymor, Julianne Moore, Alice Vikander, Timothy Hutton, Bill Skarsgård, Amanda Siegfried, Kevin Costner, Chris Pratt, Scarlett Johansson, J.K. Simmons. I don't know why they're listing all this, but yeah, she's
Bill Skarsgård.
Yes, indeed.
Is she in it?
She was.
Is she the one under the bleachers with like the deformity?
Yep. And like so, like me, I'm like, not only is it Charlie, but probably the most reaction I saw from Peter in the It movies was that girl under the bleachers.
That was so hard to watch for me as the father of a daughter.
Yeah, you were fucking squirming hard, man.
It was bad.
I think
really was.
Easily that was one of the biggest reactions for you out of all the It movies. And so like the fact that so this is indeed the girl under the bleachers in It. And it says in 2021, Ryan joined the 10th season cast of American Horror Stories. Her previous notable roles include Anne with an E and It Chapter 2 and The Glorias. So yeah, there's It Chapter 2. So yeah. That's your Charlie now to
hell yeah,
round out the top of your casting, because obviously we've had the other half of the lead already in place.
Oh, no. It's a 3-parter for Firestarter.
Oh yeah, well I mean you have your dad and your daughter now.
Yep, but we need Rainbird.
Oh, I think we have that already.
Did we have Rainbird?
Yeah, we covered that.
Rainbird.
We covered that some time ago.
I forgot about that. Hold on.
Because remember we actually ended, or I think we did. Now I'm forgetting, but I feel like we already have covered that. So let's see. Anybody in the chat as big a Firestarter fans as Peter? Robert says, "Wow, Charlie looks badass." And then he says, "I wouldn't buy lemonade from that kid."
No, you better buy lemonade from that kid, otherwise you're done.
And then Robert says, interested in a prequel for Pet Cemetery. And then Carol says, new Pet Cemetery.
Michael Gray Eyes.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Because like the only thing that stopped me was like that we had done that one where like they did a Dreamcast of a bunch of things. And I was confused. Maybe I was thinking of that. No, it was. Okay, so he's cast already. Yes. So.
What the hell is he in?
I can't. Yeah, I don't remember. We did cover it though.
True Detective.
Which season though?
2019.
Probably the third season.
That's the third season. I haven't watched the third season.
Okay, so then moving on here. Next up is Chapelwaite, which I mentioned early in the show because I mentioned we were going to potentially look at the trailer in a reaction video, but I need to do more prep on that. But yeah, Chapelwaite has a little 30-second teaser that came out. But along with that is an article here. Chapelwaite, First Look, How Stephen King's Jerusalem Lot Became a TV Series by Anthony Breznican from Vanity Fair on May 21st, 2020. So as we know, Anthony Breznican is obviously a constant reader and a good person to be breaking King news.
Been on the show before.
Yes, indeed. So Chapelwaite, it goes on, or it starts here. It says, Chapelwaite draws its inspiration from Stephen King's short story Jerusalem's Lot, a name that sounds familiar even to those who aren't among the author's constant readers. Salem's Lot is his best-selling 1975 novel about vampires infiltrating a contemporary American small town, which happens to be the same town mentioned in the this short story. But the two tales have little else in common except the patch of isolated New England real estate. The tone, the plot, and even the time period are vastly different.
Okay.
And then it goes on. The thing plaguing Adrian Brody's seafaring captain Charles Boone in the new epic series, set to debut later this summer, might hint at why bloodsucker generations later might be drawn to the region with such a grim history. The threat in Chapelwaite, like the short story, is the stuff of campfire tales or pastoral legends. So that sounds fun.
Okay.
I don't know if we're getting into beast territory, but could be just for Peter's sake.
So I was watching someone play the newest Resident Evil, and there was a fucking werewolf, and like I visibly was like freaking out because he was trying to run into a house to get away from it because couldn't fit through the door.
Yeah,
and my wife's like, "God damn, what is wrong?" I'm like, "Beast," and she's like, "Oh right." I just had to say beastie, and like she's like, "Oh right."
Yeah,
I do not, dude. I thought maybe I exaggerated just a little bit here on the show. Like, yeah, it's bad. No, like legit, like just he was like peeking out the door, like trying to find out where it went. Did it go to the left? Did it go to the right? And I'm like, no.
That's actually a throwback because in the original Resident Evil game, your helicopter crashes and then you're attacked by zombie dogs. And they chase you into the mansion. And one of the things you could do in the original game on PlayStation 1 is you could open the front door again, and it would be a jump scare because the dog's head would pop in and scare the shit out of you.
Oh,
so,
really?
Yeah, I remember that was one of like a very clear memory of that first game. And then another portion, you're walking through this hallway with windows, and they come fucking
through the windows.
Yeah,
I've seen that clip.
Yeah. Yeah, or the door is just like a cutscene. Because like Resident Evil, in the original one, it had these weird cutscenes with the doors, and that one it like kind of almost became like a cinematic where you're opening the door and the dog's head pops in and shit. So, yeah, that sounds like a little bit of a tribute, a tiny bit, like in terms of opening the door and trying to see what's going on.
Well, it was just an open door, like the door had been bashed in and there was a dead guy inside. So like the werewolf had knocked him in there and he had died.
Oh, okay.
So you're just running inside to try to get away from it, but he's like peeking out the door like
yeah.
And then it's like he goes over and there's like this like porch overhang section, and I'm like, it's gonna fit in there. Like he thought that it wasn't gonna fit under, like it was too big because it's like a big, big beastie werewolf.
Yeah.
And it like gets down and starts crawling out. I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake! It was bad.
One of my favorite discoveries is when I had you watch Creepshow.
Oh, that fucking monkey! I hate it. I hate it.
Then it goes on and says, or maybe it's really the lead character's own grief-stricken mind. And then a quote here, it says, quote, "We play with that intentionally to keep our audience guessing," says Peter Filardi. It says in parentheses, The Craft and 1990s Flatliners, who co-created the series with his brother Jason, which did Bringing Down the House. Quote, "Is it a haunted house movie? You learn that in the pilot, Charles was suffering from what appears to be some kind of psychological issues, madness that all of his other relatives suffer from. What is the danger? Well, it keeps sort of evolving." So it sounds like it's going to be kind of you don't know exactly what's going on.
Okay.
The premise of the show sticks closely to King's. Boone inherited an old estate from the last surviving relative and decides to start a new life in the ancestral mansion, a rundown structure known to the locals as Chapelwaite. The sounds within the walls lead him to discover the other Boone family secret that trace back to the Puritan age, a time of witchcraft, superstition, ancient curses, original sins, and vanished communities with the biblical moniker of Jerusalem's Lot. And I guess I can also, I believe I have, I have other slides here with different pictures from it as well. So I'll cycle those through here. King's story, first published in 1978 anthology Night Shift, was the author's way of filtering Edgar Allan Poe and Nathaniel Hawthorne and Henry James through the lurid lens of Weird Tales magazine. As these first look images and first teaser clip reveal, the vibe of Chapelwaite is American Gothic with an emphasis on the Gothic. And then I'll go ahead and throw you another picture here. Expanding Stephen King's short fiction into 10-episode series meant adding several more characters and storylines, which is why the Filardi brothers gave the family of 3 children to the widowed Boone, along with a new confidant, a free-thinking woman named Rebecca Morgan, played by Emily Hampshire, and that says in parentheses, best known as a hotel manager Stevie from Schitt's Creek, which I've been watching recently. And that's a comedy, so this is definitely against type. You wouldn't expect her. Morgan is a disruptive presence in Preacher's Corner, the nearest populated town to Chapelwaite. She's a college-educated woman, a journalist who writes for The Atlantic, and her outspokenness is a threat to the old-world patriarchal establishment that rules the region. If it feels surprising to see Hampshire in a period piece, the showrunners say that's the reason that they chose her. Quote, "She's known for her comedy, but we've seen her other stuff, like the series 12 Monkeys. We really liked her ability to go back and forth between comedy and drama," said Jason. "She's wonderfully quirky in real life." And that says Rebecca defies the will of her family and decides to become a governess and to teach the newcomers, in part because the town has chosen to shun Boone and his children. So let me see. I think I've got another picture there, which looks real fun.
No, basements. No.
It reminded me of The Haunting of Hill House. Do you remember with that dumb waiter?
Yeah.
And the kid goes down there? Dude, that is fucking brilliant horror there, dude.
Are those stairs the grabby kind of stairs? They look they look like the grabby kind of stairs.
Yeah, they're grabby stairs for sure.
Ooh, I don't like grabby stairs.
It says, for one, the community has an age-old grievance against Boones, who first built Chapelwaite, and are said to have exploited the town for their lumber operation. The town's other problem is they don't like that Boone's children are not white. The community's prejudice against women and people of color are just 2 elements of this story from long ago that feel disturbingly contemporary. Some things don't change no matter how many centuries pass. The Filardis describe the show as a clash between new ways of thinking and regressive old habits, and the way the past can overpower and corrupt hard-fought efforts to change for the better, all wrapped up in a supernatural mythology. And then it says, quote, "My brother and I grew up in Mystic, Connecticut," which apparently that's a real town. Mystic, Connecticut.
Okay.
That's just a weird town name.
Oh, come on. There's so much weirder than that.
Mystic?
Yeah.
I don't know, especially from like Connecticut area back in the day when those towns are established. It's a bunch of like fanatic people that are scared of witches.
I guess that's true. Yeah, like Mystic would be like, no,
yeah, exactly. It's like
burn them.
Yeah, no kidding.
No, what happened was like, okay, Charles, we're going to let you name the town Mystic. All right,
burn
him.
Is
now Mystic, Connecticut, and burn him. He's a witch.
He's a witch. Yeah, exactly. Then it says, which is an old whaling town, and we always wanted to.
Oh, that explains it. Sailors. Yeah, they can. they'll tell anyone to fuck off.
And we always wanted to do a New England story and a whaling story, so we made Charles Boone a 19th century whaling captain. As many of the sailors did back in the day, they often stopped on islands and fell in love and had families. Jason Ferrardi said.
Oh shit. Robert says, wow, Chapelwaite sounds deep. Mystic was a class trip back in elementary.
Oh, wow.
That's awesome. So it's a real place.
Yeah. And then, it is, because they're saying the filmmakers are from there.
Oh,
that's
gotcha.
the town they grew up in.
Okay.
So they're saying their background is Mystic, Connecticut. So they've always wanted to do a New England story, and they've always wanted to do a whaling story because they're from a whaling town in New England.
Oh, okay.
And then it says, so we wanted to bring the children into it, which would give us not only richer characters for Charles, but also more danger to the show. When horror affects the family, it's a little bit more horrific. And as
100%
again,
true.
as I would go on to point out, is The Haunting of Hill House.
Yes.
Said dumbwaiter has a little boy on it as it goes down to the basement. And how much scarier is it because it's a child that's,
yeah, if it's an adult, who gives a fuck?
Yeah, plundered into that basement of demonic.
Yeah. Go die, adults. You leave the kids alone.
Yeah. Then it says, in the story, Boone's late wife is Polynesian from the Marquesian Islands of the South Pacific. She and their children often traveled with him, so their two daughters and young son grew up seeing the world and many different people who inhabited it, along with the experiencing their many languages, faiths, and customs. When the father retreats to New England after the death of the mother, they aren't particularly comforted among the repressive, homogenous town folk. And then finishing up here, it says only their father and the governess Rebecca can be trusted, but those two are vulnerable to the power of Chapelwaite as well. Quote, being a Stephen King series, things don't turn out well for the family, says Peter Ferraldi. The house has a dark history and reputation. It is said that anyone who lives in Chapelwaite or spends any time there is either a lunatic or runs the risk of becoming one.
Oh shit!
So, and then I don't remember. Did it mention that the date? It's coming out in August. Or no, because they haven't fully announced it yet. They just said that it'll debut in August. There's that 30-second trailer. It'll be, if you want to check out the show notes, you can go to this article from Bresnikan, read the whole thing, as well as click it. He has the video attached to have the 30-second teaser.
Yeah.
So. Barely a teaser even.
Carol says Adrian Brody looks great. He does well in these kinds of roles.
Yeah, I think he'll be awesome. He was the one in the third Predator movie, right? Adrian Brody?
Yes.
Okay, like the safari, hunting lodge Predator thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I always know him from. I know he's done a lot of shit, but like that's one that I've liked.
The Pianist is the one that I remember him the most for.
Yeah,
World War II, kind of thing.
Yeah.
My jam. Robert. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it says the Great Aquarium and the 1800 seaport with authentic whaling ships. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then Travis says, I would like another Salem's Lot adaptation, and that is actually happening. I'm not hating on Hooper's version. I just think another take would be cool. I'd give it to someone like James Wan.
Oh, hell yeah.
They've already actually announced it. As a matter of fact, the next slide I have is conveniently our big board here.
Because
I updated Chapelwaite as it saying August, and then Pet Cemetery, I had it saying Pet Cemetery prequel. So I just highlighted that because I've changed it to now saying New Pet Cemetery because we have no idea what the fuck it is.
Oh, yeah.
But it's already been on the board for a bit.
How the fuck are they developing Tommy Knockers and not the Dark Tower?
Where the hell is let's see, where is Salem's Lot? Right there, top left, a second one down on films in development. Salem's Lot. It is in the works. So I am very excited about that because I agree, Travis. I think Salem's Lot is one that is just ready for a new interpretation.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and jump over to odds and ends.
Can I start off? I got one for you.
Okay, go on.
So I got an email from Audible the other day that's like, hey, what it was is you actually ended up causing this, so thank you, Cy. You're talking to me the other day. What's the newest Stephen King book that came out?
Later.
Very,
very highly recommended, by the way. I'll just pause you real quick to say to everyone, It's short. It's only, if you're looking at Audible, it's only 6 hours. But I cannot stress enough, it is highly, highly recommended. I'm not going to say more than just to say that it doesn't, I can't say it's not a standalone. It is kind of standalone, but it does feel like it has some sinew attached to the larger King universe.
Okay.
Like, I don't know.
And that's high praise from a man who refuses to buy anything under 10 hours.
Oh, yeah.
That's the thing to remember with Tad. When it comes to his Audible, he will not spend a credit or money on something that's under 10 hours. He doesn't feel that it's worth it.
Yeah. But King made me break my rule. It's highly worth it. I highly recommend it to everyone. Yeah. Please go, because I looked at the list as I was prepping this. Mm-hmm. Few people have read it, but not many. And I would just highly recommend it. Very, very good. But go on.
And that's where we had that conversation just the other day. You're like, damn, this is such a good novel. And I went to Audible and started looking, and they instantly, not an email, I misspoke. I was on my computer for once instead of on my mobile app. On my computer, it's like, hey, if you re-sign up for Audible, what is it now? Audible Plus instead of just Audible, which is the free version of what I have. If you get Audible Plus right now, we'll give you 2 free books.
Oh, okay.
For free. Just like that. Don't pay anything. You can cancel in 30 days without having to pay anything.
Okay.
And I'm like, if you just come back. And I'm like, later. Billy.
Billy Summers.
Billy Summers. Pre-order that one. And so, hey.
Awesome.
When I finish it, which I am not very far into, I am going to I'm going to jump into later.
Awesome. I can't wait to hear your reaction.
I wanted to let you keep you updated with that and everything. But as it stands right now, we got Audible back for Peter.
Awesome. Yeah, and I like I mentioned earlier, I just did Insomnia, and then I jumped into Lazy Story because the show, and I wanted to read it because that'll lead me right about time if I get through Lazy Story fast enough to usually mid to late June.
Summertime
is when I get the itch for The Stand. So
when you get the summer, your nose starts to run.
Yeah,
you start having a little bit of a
the itch in the old tube throat.
Yeah, right in the tube throat, right here.
Yeah, Travis mentioned segue, and I had to post it in there. That is like a word that I absolutely deplore. It's the worst word because of how it's
Is
spelled.
that how you spell segue?
Yeah.
Oh, fuck. I've never spelled it right.
Like, like there's Segway the scooters that's spelled the way you would imagine it being spelled. Yeah. But in terms of segue, like transitioning a conversation, it's spelled like that. Like it's SEGUE.
No.
And I hate it with every ounce of my being because like that is not right.
I hate it.
That is not right. It is not. I hate it. And the only reason
Segu.
The only reason I know that's how it's spelled is because I hate it so much. Like literally, when I learned that, it like deeply disturbed me for like a week, and then like forever, it's like etched in my brain where it's like
he lost sleep over it.
Yeah, it's like that fucking word. Okay, so to the odds and ends. One thing came across my thing here was interesting. Fine Books and Collections magazine had a post on May 24th listing rare books at auction this week. Ooh. And one of those included a copy of limited edition Stephen King Dark Tower the Gunslinger 1982, signed by King and artist Michael Whalen. And the estimated fetching price, what they were estimating because the auction hadn't happened yet, was $5,000 to $8,000.
Holy shit!
So yeah. And that's not even a first edition.
That's the version that I have.
That's the 1982. It's a limited edition, so like it's probably probably somewhat of a collector. But I'm guessing that the 2 signatures probably help it a lot too.
Yeah,
because I feel like if you get a actual first edition, I feel like it gets into more of the realm of like tens of thousands of dollars because that's very rare.
That is that's the version that I have. I need to get it signed. Sell it.
So that's that. I found that interesting. That came across my old email thing, and I wanted to share. Let's see.
Travis says the spelling of a segue is more disturbing than being enslaved by Lovecraftian ant beings in a nightmare afterlife.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a horrible, horrible word. Okay, so then next up, we had a tweet from Bloomhouse for the kickoff of Firestarter. And it's a moving thing, but all it is this person on fire walking. So there's really not much to it. I figured the screen grab would be enough to give you the idea. As it is, And if you're listening on the podcast version, you could check out the show notes to see the picture here. But it's a
walking into the first day of production, like
and then hashtag Firestarter. And it's a person on fire. So that's a lot of fun. And that was on May 25th. So that article from the whatever that town was that they're filming
Hamilton?
in was right. Yeah, Hamilton was correct. That May 25th would be the start of production because that's when that tweet went out. So through July 21st.
Interesting. That's where they start, though. we're filming Firestarter, so we must set men on fire. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think the Hound would be a fan of this movie.
No.
from the Game of Thrones series there.
Yeah, not a fan of fire.
Okay, so this next one's really fucking random.
All right.
But Marvel superheroes are apparently scared of Stephen King. And I have here is an actual comic panel from Fantastic Four. And I'll just read it here because it may be small on the screen. And Johnny Storm says, "Oh, movies are great, Ben. You're just a coward. That's all." And Ben Grimm, which is the Thing from Fantastic Four. Johnny Storm is the Human Torch. Grimm says, "I like books. I like zombies and vampires and demon clowns just to stay on the page where Stevie King put them, where they belong. In the movies, they move, you know. In the books, they only go as fast as I let them. And they do jump scares. That's way too much like work." And then I'll go ahead to the other. It's a large panel. I had to split it in half.
Yeah.
Which is funny. It's a lot like work because their work is obviously dealing with pretty horrific things. And it says, "Me and Alicia, we've been listening to audiobooks, but even that's too much sometimes. Books stay still." And then Johnny Storm laughs. Ha. So, yeah, apparently Ben Grimm, the Thing from Fantastic Four, is not a fan of movies because they move too fast and scare him. So I just
not a fan of Stephen King.
Yeah, and I just love it. Stay on the page where Stevie King put them, like where they belong. I just love it.
He talks about a demon clown.
Yeah, demon clown. I just love it. It just cracked me up. Now you got vampires. I guess zombies. You have Cell, right? It's kind of zombie-ish for King. Mm-hmm. I was about to say, so yeah, King's covered all those bases there. I just found it funny as hell, and it came across my thing, so I had to share it because, yeah, apparently Marvel Comics.
That is very funny.
Are scared of Cy King. And then the next one here is Billy Summers, as a matter of fact, the one that you just pre-ordered, has a narrator, and that is Paul Sparks. And this is straight from King's website. It says, "Paul Sparks will narrate the audiobook edition of Stephen King's latest thriller, Billy Summers. Sparks is known for playing Ace Merrill in Stephen King's Castle Rock. He starred as Mickey Doyle in Boardwalk Empire and received Primetime Emmy nominations for his role as Tom Yates in House of Cards." So that will be your voice in your head when Billy Summers comes along for Audible. So that's a lot of fun.
That comes out in August.
Yes. I think mid-August. It was earlier here. I think it was mentioned. But yes, coming up soon. So Uncle Stevie recommends. I used to have this as part of Odds and Ends. I think I'm just going to kind of make it its own segment. Not that we'll have it every time because I think King has a lot of recommendations, but not all the time. But this one is actually a blurb about a book. He tweeted and says, "I loved this book, see blurb, but I thought it was an extraordinary cover. Posting it as art, not as advertising," is what King says in his tweet. And here's the cover of said novel. And it's called Road of Bones by Christopher Golden. And that is a really good cover.
It was a really good cover using the frozen trees and everything.
Yeah, and
make it look like a skull.
Yeah, and so on the cover is a Stephen King blurb, and it's kind of small, so I have the text here. I'll read it here. It says, "Tightly wound, atmospheric, and creepy as hell. It will take you to a place you've never been before, and the trip will scare the hell out of you. I loved it." And that's Stephen King's blurb for this book. So if you're one of the folks that like to follow Stephen King and his recommendations, he does a lot of more movies more than anything, but this is one of the first times I think we've covered it. He's recommended a novel for us. So
all right.
If you want to expand outside of the King verse and get into something else, here's one that Uncle Stevie recommends. Okay, so then jumping over to the Palaver section, we actually have, for Palaver, we actually only have a challenge we're going to throw out. And I do actually have something that I'm listing all of our open challenges so that we don't forget. We also have one on doing like a anthology TV show with short stories. I think for you to prep it, because you haven't read a lot of the short stories, it might be best just like Wikipedia maybe and kind of get some excerpts and figure out what might fit best. I think we have a couple emails on that one, so we will be covering that one. I haven't forgotten. And then we have some coming up with emails. I don't know if we'll get to. Maybe we'll probably get to it this episode. But let's go ahead and throw out this new one here. Peter and I actually stumbled on this one. I don't remember how it happened, but what we came up with was I think we were actually talking about. I think I was talking to him about later.
I think that's how it started.
Yeah, because it's a kid in later, and I think if anyone remembers when it was announced, basically it's a kid that has some kind of supernatural ability, and he is used. It was kind of like what we were told up even before reading it. So I'm not trying to say anything that I know from actually having read it, but he's being used by people for his ability. And it's just, I think I mentioned to you just how startling it is that the fact that King is still so fucking good at writing children.
Yeah.
Even, now as he's 72, he's getting up there in age. He's very, very, very far removed from childhood, but he still writes children incredibly well. I mean, even you with If It Bleeds recently would have read Mr. Harrington's Phone, and that, I mean, there was a couple technology things where I was like, oh, okay, yeah, Stephen King 72. But the kid stuff, like what he had with the kid there was incredible, and it was perfect. So we were talking about that, and we decided to come up with a challenge for everyone, and we'll throw it out there. We're basically calling it we're gonna challenge people to come up with their top 10 Stephen King kids. So it'll be a top 10 list, and what we're going to do, what we talked about how to define it. So we're going to define kids as 15 or younger, because we feel that once you hit high school, I know they're technically still kids, but it's different. Like you have a car, you have a job, like there's like an independence that comes from like being a high schooler. And like if we maybe at some point want to do a high school one in the future, we can do that. But for now, we want to be like dealing with kids, and for me, like kids is like someone that's not in high school, like they're younger.
I picture
than
someone in elementary school is what I picture. If someone was said to me, "Hey, what's a kid from a Stephen King novel?" I'd instantly probably go to the Losers Club.
Yeah.
Losers Club will come to mind. 6th grade, age and everything like that.
Yeah, not necessarily like Carrie doesn't come straight to mind.
Carrie instantly doesn't pop to mind when someone says kid. I also think of Jake, 11 years old in Wastelands.
Yeah.
So that's where my mind goes, is that.
Heil Spencer. Looks like Spencer just joined us.
Spencer.
So Robert asks, evil ones or good ones? Honestly, and that's what. So the next line I have on my note here: any kid from any Stephen King work. They don't have to be a main character. They don't have to be good or evil. Anyone, any kid.
Yeah, just your top 10.
Fill it in. Yeah, like I said, we're gonna draw the line at age 15. So 15 or younger. But older than that, when we're talking high school kids, I think that'd be a different list. I think kind of young adults or whatever, even though they are still technically kids. Like as the law states it, right?
They make adult decisions. That's the
thing.
Like that's what we were talking about before. Is that once you hit high school, all of a sudden there's some different decisions there.
Jack, does Mordred count? Oh yeah, there it is. There's the dagger look in Peter's eye there.
That son of a bitch is inhuman. He doesn't count.
Oh, if you want to use him, he certainly does count. Peter will not take kindly to you choosing him, though. You still,
Carol,
Peter, you're still a little bit bitter there. I take it.
Don't mention that name in my presence. Carol says 1 to 10, Jake Chambers, and done.
Yeah, I'm assuming Jake's going to probably figure very highly on a lot of people's list. But no, that's a challenge I want to throw out there, because I do really believe that King writes really, really incredible children. One other thing I would mention is if for instance, like Danny from The Shining, I would say don't let Dr. Sleep count into it. Like if you do see them as an adult, don't let their adult side sway it. Like if they are like a kid you don't really like, but then as an adult they're really cool. I'm not saying that's Danny, but like even if it was like that for
even for like it as well.
For it, like don't let the stuff with them as adults hamper your opinions. Let's just look at them only as children, because that's really what we're trying to look at here is like what are the best kids that King has ever written across the board. So
and Travis. Robert asks, how old is Oi? And Travis says, dead years old.
Yes.
Hashtag you all are terrible.
Oh man, this is glorious. Couple daggers right there. It was looking like we might not have a whole lot of them there. Had you squirming around with beasts, but not as many daggers as normal. So.
Oh man, that sucks. That's harsh.
Oh, that is brilliant. I will say, I don't want to say human. I don't think Oi counts. Like, I don't want to say human because I don't know. Like, I don't want to exclude. Like, I don't know.
Mordred.
Yeah, I guess I was thinking like if there's like aliens or creature or whatever. Yeah, but like Oi, like he's a dog. Like he's not a child.
He's not a dog. He's a Billy Bumbler. You fuck.
Or a mongrel, as I called him before we went on air.
Yeah, no kidding.
Okay, so
Hashtag Tad is terrible, and so am I, Travis said.
So let's go ahead and jump over and do a couple emails. I feel like it's been a minute since we did emails.
Yeah.
We did like our stand-ups. It just feels like if you look at the way our things broken out, we haven't had as much chance for emails recently. So I want to definitely catch up and hit a couple. Let's go ahead and hit the old sound bite here.
Emails. It's the emails. Tad's gonna read us what people wrote to us.
You know that's not getting deleted, right?
God damn it. God, we didn't have video back then.
Yeah. And then when I seen you doing your little like dance,
I was doing a little dance with it.
Yeah. So yeah, emails. Let me go ahead and sorry, I got Allie's little note here. Say 19, right?
Oof, don't. No, bad idea.
So let's go ahead and jump in here. We got first up Rich. And again, some of these are backlogged. So when he says in your most recent book club, which that is probably not anywhere near the truth anymore, you had brought up that Roland losing his fingers, Eddie being a junkie, and Susanna having no legs. What else could go wrong? Looking ahead and seeing one of the books is called Wizard and Glass, I also thought that at some point in the series, Roland and Susanna would have been made whole by a wizard or something, almost like Wizard of Oz. But that was not the Wizard of Oz reference King was going for, I guess. Ha ha ha. Which honestly, Rich, I fucking agree. I actually remembered doing the exact same thing. Because I thought to myself,
you've
like,
said that before.
Yeah, I'm like, dude, the freaking like the fingers, like, and the legs, like the legs and the fingers are things that really trip me out.
Yeah.
I'm like, how? Like, because now I look at it where it's like, yes, you have to humanize Roland. You have to bring Roland down a bit, because if it is just Roland as he is at the beginning, what the fuck's the point of anyone else? It's like the Justice League. Like, Superman's there. What the hell do you need anyone else for?
Yeah.
You know, like, so you need to bring Roland down a peg to allow everyone else, like the team, to be more of an impact on everything.
Yeah.
And Susanna, it was just like a practicality. I'm just like, you're in the wilderness here, man. Like,
how the fuck are you gonna get anywhere?
I remember thinking, like, they either have to like find a 4-wheeler for her to ride and like somehow be able to be like fucking magically powered, nuclear powered, so it'll never like run out of battery or gas or whatever,
Solar powered.
or her fucking legs have to be restored in some way, because I just So I remember actually seeing Wizard and Glass as well. So Rich, good call. I had the same fucking thought where I'm like trying to think of whatever and just looking at titles and going, okay, cool, Wizard and Glass. At some point we get a wizard. Cool.
Oh, here it is.
Something, all kinds of shit might happen here. So definitely we were both wrong though. But yeah, I do remember having that same thought.
Hey, and it worked out.
Yeah, no, it did. I give King a lot of props, man, because me as a reader, I couldn't have imagined that Susanna would go the whole story without ever being restored legs wise, because it just, I mean, I guess as it went though, we actually did get a little bit more civilized. Like, you're not necessarily in the wilderness as much, right? You get like, once you get to the tail end of book 3 and book 4, like, or book 4 is a flashback, but then from there it's like you got trails. It's a little bit more refined. It's not like full on wilderness like we were seeing in book 2 and early 3.
Spencer says, I'll have to catch the rest of the podcast. Judging by the comments, I missed a good show. Having my son's birthday party today, but had to stop by and say hi. Take care, all. Cheers. Happy birthday to Spencer's boy.
Yeah, Spencer, thanks for joining us for a bit.
In.
Yeah, definitely appreciate it. Okay, so then
pops in, sticks the dagger in, twists, and then takes off.
I mean, that's what I would do too. Like, literally, if this was like a show I was just listening to.
You stay and enjoy the pain and suffering.
Oh, that's true. I mean, I don't know. Does that make me like an outsider, where I'm like feeding on like your misery, or is that like Pennywise, or it's just like?
No, it's not fear.
Yeah, that's true.
It's pain and suffering. That's outsider.
Yeah. So
fucking shape-shifting piece of
shit. Oh man. It's just too fun. Like, and everyone gets it now. Like, I mean, I think everyone's always got it. That's why daggers have come your way from the other side, not just from my side. So, yes. Now, next up, we have Chris from Australia.
Chris.
And he actually teased this on the episode that he joined us.
Yeah.
Because I think Peter kind of did a little prophecy and kind of maybe called this one out. So he says, hi, Tad and Peter.
Hi.
Hello. And he says, here's one for the mailbag. What are your top 5 Stephen King books? You've discussed your favorite books before, but I don't think you've ever listed a top 5. And then he says the rules are, and so again, we'll put this on our challenges, and we could throw this out for everyone too. It says the rules are, you can only include the Dark Tower. You can only include the Dark Tower books 1 through 7 as a single entry. Novella collections and short story collections can be listed, but not individual novella/short stories. So you can include different seasons, or If It Bleeds, or Skeleton Crew, but not Rita Hayworth in The Shawshank Redemption or The Mist. And he says, to kick things off, here are the books I've enjoyed the most from those I have read so far. He says, I've read 59 of King's works as I type this, and I'll look at the old list here real quick. And Chris from Australia, he has now read 62
nice.
by the time we've actually read this email. So his list here, let's see. What he's read, or the ones he's most enjoyed he's read so far. This isn't his list yet. The Dark Tower, The Shining, The Dead Zone, Different Seasons, It, Misery, The Green Mile, Hearts in Atlantis, Doom McKee, 11/22/63, and Doctor Sleep. And he says my top 5 would be number 5, 11/22/63. Definitely not surprised. Like I mentioned earlier in this episode, I think that's one that would fall into the top 5 or 3 for most people.
Yep.
Number 4, Doom McKee, not one I've read. I think you have though, right?
Yes, sir.
Number 3, The Shining. Number 2, It, and number 1, The Dark Tower. And then he said, and then he says, Merry Christmas. And here's to a much better 2021 for everyone. Long days and pleasant nights, Chris from Australia.
We're just a little bit behind on emails, just a little bit.
Yeah, and it hasn't helped that we've had like a lot of episodes just haven't allowed as much. But I will say it was a good Christmas, and 2021 has been a much better year than 2020 so far.
So far it has been.
Yes, but that's the challenge to everyone. So just to recap, we're going to do top 5 novels for King. And
I swear we've done the top 10 before.
We've done adaptations was our main thing that we've done is that we did that top 10 adaptations. So books wise, we've always talked about books we love, but I don't know if I think Chris is right. I don't know if we've ever actually like made a list of whatever. So top 5 novels, novellas don't count on their own. They have to count as part of the whole book they're part of. The Dark Tower is only a single entry. And then
only a top 5.
Yeah, just a top 5. So that'll be a fun one. And we'll, the other thing is I was going to open the calendar because I was actually going to, before we started the show, I was going to say we should circle like some dates. So maybe we should have, let's see, where are we at? We're on 106 right now. Maybe call it 108, which is on the 17th of July for one of these challenges. And then 109, which is for the one after that. Let's just kind of stagger them. And like just tell everyone. So you basically have till the end of July for both the one that we just threw out with the kids, and then let's do Chris's first. So 108 we'll do Chris's top 5 books, and then 109 we'll do the top 10 kids for Stephen King, because 10 might be a little bit harder to come up with. But we'll circle those just so people know. Let's put a deadline on it so you guys can know when we're going to do it, and then we'll circle back and hit some of the ones that we have in the hopper that we haven't forgotten about. We'll do those later. Yes.
Travis asked a couple of questions. When is this due by? Todd just went over that. Also, is there a specific headline for emails? Like a subject line?
It doesn't matter. Like usually, I mean, I go through everything. Like if you want to, whether you mention the subject line or just at the top, like, hey, this is my answers for the top 5 King novels or top 10 King kids. Just throw that somewhere and I'll know and I can gather those up. So you basically have about a month to do both of them. Like we'll do 108 on the 17th and 109 on the 31st of July for both. For those 2 challenges. And like I said, we have some more I know that are open. I'm not going to forget. Let me just refresh those. So the first, because we'll get to that one on the next round after that, which would be like 110, which is in like August. But it's if you're going to create a short story or a TV show, an anthology TV show, you're going to have 10 episodes, and you can fill those 10 episodes with 10 of King's short stories to fill those 10 episodes. Fill that in, and we'll do that on the 110.
We want to do existing short stories, not him writing new ones.
Yes, like existing short stories. So if you've read a lot of his short story collections, how would you fill out because I just think that'd be a cool thing, because he's written some incredible short stories that would make killer fucking things on screen, but they wouldn't necessarily make good movies probably because they may be too short. So a good hour of television would be perfect, like a Tales from the Crypt type thing. So we'll do that one on the 10th. So let's go ahead and
let's before we go any further, hi Alan, thank you for joining us.
Oh yeah, hi Alan.
You can see us on camera now. On YouTube. Hey,
can see us. Okay, so that is Chris's. Let's go ahead and jump over and just hit a couple. We got another short one here from Laura. And she says, I'm glad you guys are still going. I just started listening from the beginning. Pre-adaptation conversations make me realize how much I love constant readers and Tower Junkies especially. We are always so positive that we see the beautiful series, to see this series made into beautiful images. So just a short one from Laura there, so definitely appreciate it.
Well, welcome. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, and then let me see. I think that is where we'll stop because the next few are a little bit longer, and we're getting kind of close to time. So
we want to do them justice.
Yeah, exactly. And but I did see some of these short ones. And I'm like, we may as well go ahead and hit some of these, and especially the challenge from Chris from Christmas time.
We're just a little bit behind on emails.
Yeah, but this is a big episode too because it's been a while since we've done a roundtable, so it's there's some stuff to catch up on. Once we're back to a normal roundtable, we could probably get more emails and kind of get through some of these. So, but yeah, send your emails in on those challenges. I'll throw on the show notes the challenges with the rules and the dates that we're going to actually cover them. So kind of your deadline to get them into us. All right, so yeah, that will be this episode. 106 and yeah, as this will be kind of the one we mark in history as the first one with a visual element. I know I haven't looked at the camera much. It's kind of hard for me. I've got screens, I've got Peter,
that's what we were talking about earlier, is that don't think of us as like ignoring you and not talking to you like some people do. We do still have to read and go through the podcast stuff. Do we have the side-by-side view for while we're closing out?
Let's see. Yes. Like this type thing, I think is what you're talking about. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, that's the one.
Okay. Yeah, so we can go ahead and hit our outro stuff. So yeah, a good episode though. A lot of fun stuff we covered. A lot of cool upcoming things.
Firestarter. I'm so fucking pumped for Firestarter.
Yeah,
sorry.
I feel like that's going to be a big one as we move forward here because now they're in the middle of production and stuff. So we're going to be seeing some images. We're going to be, getting a teaser at some point, trailer, all kinds of stuff. So yeah, a lot of fun stuff coming. So definitely gonna look forward to, I don't know, the rest of 2021.
Yeah.
So for the outro stuff, if you want to subscribe to us on any podcast delivery system, you can also stream us on Spotify or Stitcher. You can find the show notes at darktowerpalaver.com. All of our links are there as well. Like I said, I said at the beginning of the episode, I've updated the website. There's new buttons there for the links. And there's everything, including our store. The store looks like a box that's being opened. I couldn't find a good shopping cart that actually matched the rest of our logos. And I'm far too... I don't know, OCD. I know that people don't like that because I'm not actually OCD, but like my brain would have broken if I would have used like a different color logo or something. Because like the rest of them, I got them down to like the Dark Tower. What I'm thinking of is like Dark Tower red now, like the shade of red that we use for all of our stuff.
Like
but the cart, I just couldn't find a picture that could actually be manipulated right. So it's a box for that. Check all that out. And then, yeah, if you're a new listener, you got all the questions you can answer, which is actually, I will mention, the next email on the in the batter's box, as it were, is Clint from Nebraska, and Clint is answering the questions.
Ooh,
so
yeah.
When we come back next time and cover emails, that's where we will be answering some of those questions from a new listener. Then if you want to support us on Patreon, you can do that at patreon.com/darktowerpalaver. Be part of our Discord server. We have monthly hangouts, which recently we just evolved, and now we're doing that as all kinds of things. But commentary was the last thing that we did. But the main thing, of course, the Discord server. Nothing like being able to dagger Peter all the time. It's fun here. It's fun everywhere. It's always fun to give Peter the old Caesar treatment. So yeah, then if you want to contact us, you can. Peter can let you know the ways to do that.
If you want to reach us, like the emails we just read, it's darktowerpalaver@gmail.com. Check us out on YouTube. We've talked about it all show. Going forward, this is now a video podcast. You can see Tad and I on video as we react.
And Pennywise.
And you're going to see my reactions now as Tad's reading out. Like seeing the absolute despair of seeing how awesome that fucking Amazon
pilot,
thank you, looked, and not ever going to be able to see it. Just
maybe there's still hope because like it's
not
actually
that one.
Yeah, well, no, it's getting out there though. Like people are actually getting their hands on it, so I'm wondering if like it'll become like a bootleg thing that we can maybe get our hands on it at some point and watch it.
Maybe.
So
definite commentary on that if we do.
Overall, we're probably not going to see the series as that one was.
That's what I was meaning.
But the pilot, who knows? It's recorded. It's out there. It's on a hard drive somewhere, and maybe at some point it'll get leaked.
But yeah, we will definitely be doing video going forward. So check us out. It's youtube.com/darktowerpalaver. Hit the like button, subscribe, ring the bell so you get notifications so you see when we go live. We have a pretty regular schedule. Every fortnight we're on. Tad's happy I used the word fortnight. But there is times where we'll do different times, and sometimes we'll even bump it a week or a day for it. So make sure.
For instance, I can even throw it out there now. Is the 14th of August is a book club for Wastelands Part 9 of our ninth part. Right now would be penciled in for the 14th of August. That will not be happening. That is both my mom's birthday as well as my employer is doing like our theme park in Utah. They're doing
Lagoon,
they're doing a day there where we're getting in there for $5. So like I'm probably going to take my mom and my parents to that. So we won't be able to record that day. So that one will be moved but forward or backwards. We'll let you know as we get closer to that. But for instance, like that, you'll know with our YouTube because I'll plan them out.
Also, I do have to throw this out there, and I apologize for I haven't had a chance to talk to Tad about this. The next episode might also potentially be moved with something that has come up. So keep an eye on the social media. That is facebook.com/darktowerpalaver. And then the Twitter is @darktowerpod. That's @darktowerpod. And our Instagram is darktowerpalaver. And then I'm just going to throw it out there. Tad mentioned it, but I'm going to throw it out there. The merch that we released is available. We got hashtag Tad is terrible. Tad's got the Dark Tower Palaver shirt itself. With it being, it's on tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver. It's not just shirts. Chris from Australia, I think no, Cody from Kansas.
Cody,
in the Discord for our Patreon, showed us a sticker that he got, and it is nice. It is very cool. You can get the logo that Tad's wearing, or the hashtag Tad is terrible with the logo on it.
The slander, as we call it.
It's not slander. It's truth. It's written on the board. Therefore, it's truth. This is Peter's board. This is the truth.
I'm going to get a little cushion, the Dark Tower Palaver cushion. I'm going to get one of those.
That's really cool. Yeah, you can get a pillow and everything.
A little square pillow, like you throw on a couch type pillow.
You can get hoodies and different kinds of T-shirts, like the tank tops and everything like that.
Yeah, there is female cuts as well.
Female cuts, male cuts, all that kind of stuff.
We made sure that was covered because I didn't want it to be where it was just like, just unisex, which just means it's a man shirt that we're going to make women wear.
No, but it is available on there. And it's www.tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver to find it. I tried searching just Dark Tower Palaver, and they're buried.
Yeah.
So if you want it, go to the website, www.darktowerpalaver. Tad has a link there to it, or just go to tpublic.com/user/darktowerpalaver.
Yeah, indeed. Yeah, their search function isn't super great. Although you will find yourself all kinds of Dark Tower merchandise on there.
There's a lot of different on there.
Not all ours, but there's a lot of cool Dark Tower stuff on there. So, and Stephen King stuff. So I'm a nerd of TeePublic. I've been using them for years. At one point, I think I had enough shirts to go like 2 weeks in a row without doing laundry, and I could have a new shirt every day of just nerdy ass shirts I bought on there. So, yes, I'm a long time.
Speaking of the devil, Cody joined us.
Caught us here at the end.
He said that's exactly what he said. I seem to always catch you guys right at the end lately.
And, like I said, I apologize. At the beginning, top of the show, I said I completely forgot to do the social media blasts. So you're definitely hit up the YouTube notifications. Hopefully that'll be a little bit better for you, because every once in a while I forget. I've been pretty good. I haven't forgotten in a while, but I did forget this time because of the video element. Trying to get all this prepped is like it's always stressful for me when we add something new, because like we've been doing the same thing for a long time. So when we change something, it's always stressful to me. Hey, you slanderous little. Do I need to bring up Oi getting ringed like a rag by
it just adds to the hashtag Tad is terrible. So I mean, please, by all means.
Or the Mordred conversation earlier, why you hate Mordred so much.
This is like someone on trial for murder admitting that he also hit the little old grandma on his way to court that day, and the fact that he murdered a puppy the week before. I mean, yeah, go ahead. That's fine.
Mordred, that's why you hate him, right? If he didn't kill Oi, would you hate Mordred as much?
Depends on his ending. Because the only reason that Mordred died is because of Oi. If Mordred got to Roland, yeah, I'd hate him just as much, if not more, for killing Roland.
Okay.
If he killed Patrick, nah.
Hashtag Peter is terrible.
Patrick's
He's very crucial, sir. Without him, Roland's not getting to that tower. That's all I'm saying. He has no way to beat the Crimson King.
Okay,
man.
Travis, seriously. Hashtag Oi had it come. What?
Get Peter all fired up right at the end here. I love it. I love the spirit of it.
Shame on you. Shame.
So thank you guys for joining us. Like I said, on the podcast side, everything's the same as normal. But if you do want to join us, if you're curious about what we look like, we will now be visual on the things from episode 106 on. So on the YouTube side, join us, or on the podcast side, either way. But we will sign off as we always do by saying long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.
All right. And sorry, we always have to grab a little bit of silence for the people on the live stream for the podcast, because there's just ambient noise in the room, including an air conditioner, because it's it's a cool 95 today. After the 100 degree day yesterday. And
I felt like I was gonna melt.
Yeah, it was like, that's not unusual for our weather, but it's unusual how early this is. We usually don't have that kind of weather this early. Usually that's like mid-July into August. Like,
it's so hot.
Yeah, but suddenly
Utah.
it went from like, it was like 80 something a few days ago, and like, like low 80s.
It legit,
and it went to like, it was 100 degrees yesterday.
It legit, from the end of May, right before Memorial Day, went from the 70s, where my kids still had to wear a jacket in the morning because it was like 60s, 50s in the morning, to over 100 degrees yesterday. Like, legit, I had to go to the dentist yesterday, so I felt like I was gonna melt.
Yeah, it was miserable. So we have like the air conditioner on and stuff, so we always have to have a little bit of silence there as I close the podcast out, so I can noise remove on the software. But
look at Dad's movies.
Yeah, I got my movies behind
one
me.
of the two shelves. He has another one. Over this way from him.
Yeah, that's true, and it's getting full. So. But yeah, Pennywise will be joining us on a weekly basis. He's always a good friend to have around, right, Peter? But yeah, thank you guys for joining us. It's always fun to have you guys chatting with us. Definitely a busier crowd than we've had in some cases. Definitely love it. Love having you guys. And yes, Travis, it is indeed the Tim Curry version. I wouldn't mind getting me a Skarsgård version to go next to him, though. Skarsgård, it's maybe he'd have the eye off to the side. The Skarsgård eye.
No, it needs to be the one that's waving the arm that he's munching on.
Yeah, indeed. I mean, it could do like, maybe a play set with bleachers and, Charlie.
God damn it, dude. Really?
All right, guys. Thanks for joining us. Hope you guys enjoyed the new element. And yeah, we'll see you guys in a fortnight for, another roundtable.
Yep.
So yeah, keep an eye on the old, social media as well as YouTube, the notifications. If we do have to change things around, I always change the dates on there so that the YouTube is always accurate in terms of what you guys can expect in terms of us coming. There's also a playlist that I've created for upcoming episodes, so you can always look at that and see what the first one is, so you kind of know what's coming and when. So see you guys in a fortnight. Long days and pleasant nights.
Long days and pleasant nights, folks.